Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
She used to slip out after midnight, claiming exhaustion from hospital shifts, but I'd catch glimpses of guilt in her eyes. Deep down, I knew something was off, but I never imagined my own mother was pulling the strings. The day I discovered the truth, 3 kids who aren't even mine, my entire world cracked. I didn't just lose my faith in marriage, I lost myself. Yet betrayal has a funny way of fueling vengeance. Now I'm back, with enough power to make them wish they'd never crossed me. They're about to learn that a quiet man can plan the cruelest revenge. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. I don't usually pay attention to how sunlight filters through the bedroom blinds, but that Tuesday morning I couldn't help noticing the striped pattern it left across the comforter. I lay there, blinking awake, listening to Alice shuffle around in the bathroom. She'd gotten up before me, which wasn't unusual, but I swear something about her footsteps sounded heavier, like she was carrying a weight in her mind. I scolded myself for reading too much into it. I'm Adam Coleman, a 42-year-old software entrepreneur who likes to think logically. On a typical weekday, I'm out of bed by 6, ready to tackle code or check our project boards before the kids even open their eyes. But that morning, I just lingered. Maybe it was that half-lost dream where Alice and I were still in college, drifting across campus, oblivious to real life. Or maybe I just needed a moment to remember how fortunate I was. I finally forced myself up and into the shower. A quick 5 minutes under the hot water was enough to reboot my brain. Then it was game on time to handle breakfast for the kids. We live in Millbrook, a quiet but affluent town that somehow balances old New England charm with the flash of modern success stories. My software startup had done well, allowing us a mortgage in a neighborhood I'd only dreamed of when I was younger. As I toweled off, I caught sight of myself in the mirror, a little more gray at my temples, maybe a new line or two around my eyes, but I still had enough energy to keep up with 3 kids. Theo, 14, Ella, 12, and Logan, 9. They could be a handful, especially Ella, who's just discovering sarcasm as her native language. But I couldn't imagine life without them. "Alice?" I called out, padding into the hallway. She was already dressed in a light blue blouse and black slacks. She said she had a shift at the hospital. "You doing okay?" She offered a small, automatic smile. "Yeah, just running late. I've got a full schedule today, and I'm covering for Dr. Evans." Alice was a dedicated physician's assistant, proud of her career and always juggling weekend shifts or late nights when the hospital was short-staffed. "You seem a little off," I said, stepping closer. "Did you sleep all right?" She opened her mouth as if to say something, then glanced down the hall. The kids' bedroom doors were closed. Finally, she shrugged. "I'm fine. Just busy, you know." It felt like a brush-off, but I let it go. We had kids to feed, and I hated making her feel interrogated at 7:30 in the morning. Besides, in any marriage, people have moods. Not every sigh is a sign of disaster. Downstairs, the smell of fresh coffee perked me up. I always set the pot's timer for 6:45, so by the time we're in the kitchen, there's a warm carafe waiting. I found Alice pouring a mug, her third, from the looks of it. "Morning, Dad," came Theo's voice. He trudged in, wearing basketball shorts and an oversized shirt. At 14, he was shooting up in height every other month, always in need of new clothes. "Hey, buddy, sleep well?" He shrugged, rummaging for cereal. "Kind of. My math homework took forever." Ella arrived next, hair in a messy ponytail, scrolling through her phone with half-lidded eyes. "We're out of almond milk," she announced, opening the fridge. "You know I can't have regular milk in my cereal." Logan bounded in behind her, all 9-year-old energy. "Dad, can I take my Lego spaceship to show and tell? Miss Price said we could bring something that shows our creativity." I tried to manage all these questions and demands, still noticing how quiet Alice was. She sipped her coffee and tapped at her phone, occasionally flashing a tight smile whenever the kids looked her way. It made me wonder if she was reading something urgent for work or maybe responding to Dr. Evans. "All right," I said, raising my voice a fraction to gather them in. "Theo, if you finish your math homework earlier, you'll get more sleep. So let's talk about that schedule." Ella, I'll swing by the grocery store after dropping Logan off. I'll grab almond milk for tomorrow. Logan, as long as it's not messy, sure, you can bring the spaceship. Just keep the pieces together, okay? It felt good orchestrating these little tasks, as if I were the conductor of our family's daily symphony. Usually, Alice chimes in with her own reminders or jokes, but this time she just leaned against the countertop and typed something on her phone. Every now and then her brow furrowed. "Everything all right?" I asked softly once more, stepping closer so the kids couldn't overhear. She quickly locked her phone. "Sure, just checking messages. A friend from the hospital asked about scheduling." Before I could pry further, she drained the last of her coffee and kissed me on the cheek, a little too quickly. "Gotta run. Love you all." We exchanged goodbyes, and then she was out the door, leaving behind that faint scent of her floral perfume. I took a deep breath and turned to hustle the kids along. By 8:30, I had them dropped off. Theo and Ella at Millbrook Middle High School, Logan at his elementary campus. The drive to my office was less than 10 minutes, thanks to the small-town layout. My startup, Coleman Tech Solutions, operated out of a renovated brick building that once housed a textile factory. We had about 20 employees, plus a handful of contract developers scattered around the state. Inside, I was greeted by my project manager, Rachel Wu, a sharp coder who'd been with me almost since the beginning. She waved me over with a tablet in hand. "Morning, boss," Rachel said, adjusting her rectangular glasses. "We got an interesting client request for a custom software integration. I think it's up your alley, lots of optimization behind the scenes." I smiled. "Lead the way." We spent the next couple hours in a conference room, brainstorming solutions. Rachel's enthusiasm matched my own, and for a while I forgot about that tension at home. But just before lunch, I found my thoughts drifting back to the way Alice kept glancing at her phone. She'd been quiet a lot lately, and sometimes I'd catch a quick shift in her expression if I walked in unexpectedly. A few times, I'd asked if anything was wrong at the hospital, but she insisted everything was fine. I told myself it was probably just stress. The local hospital, Millbrook General, had been dealing with staffing shortages, so maybe she had more responsibilities. She might not want to burden me with her worries. We used to tell each other everything, but in the last few weeks, her demeanors had changed like she was living in her head, carrying secrets she had no intention of sharing. I met up with an old friend, Jack Finley, for lunch at a bistro a few blocks from the office. Jack and I went to grad school together. He's not in the tech world, but we stayed close. We joked about hockey scores, teased each other about who was getting older faster, and then he gave me a concerned look. "You sure you're okay?" Jack asked. "You seem a bit spaced." I forced a grin. "Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Feels like Alice has been distant. Maybe she's swamped at the hospital or something." Jack's eyes flicked down at his sandwich. "You think it's a rough patch or something else?" His question hit a nerve, but I tried to laugh it off. "Come on, we've been good for years. We have kids, we're stable. Every marriage has ups and downs." Jack nodded. "You're right. Sorry. Just had to ask. People get weird vibes sometimes, you know?" He paused, then shrugged. "Anyway, if you ever need to talk, I'm here." The subject hung in the air, making me uneasy. I brushed it away and changed the topic to some new gaming console I'd been messing around with. But Jack's comment lingered, as if he were picking up on something I was trying to deny. Later that afternoon, I swiveled in my office chair, scanning through code on my monitor but not really processing it. My gaze kept drifting to a family photo pinned to my cubicle wall. Me, Alice, and the kids at a lake last summer. We were all smiling in the sunshine, arms around each other. I wondered if that happiness was genuine, or if I'd just been too clueless to see any fractures. My phone buzzed. A text from Alice. "Running late emergency at the hospital. Don't wait up." That was the second time in a week she'd texted something like that. I typed back a short, "Okay, be safe," but felt a pang of disappointment. Usually she'd give more details or a quick phone call. My mind raced with questions I had no right to ask. Was it Dr. Evans again? Or was she really covering for someone else's shift? I told myself to trust her. She was a dedicated medical professional. Emergencies happen. Yet a tiny voice inside me whispered that something was off. I shut that voice down. By dinner time, I'd picked up Logan from soccer practice, while Theo and Ella came home on the late bus after their extracurriculars. We ordered pizza. No point cooking an elaborate meal for just me and the kids. I coaxed them into the living room, aiming for a family night. We half-watched some silly sitcom, but I could tell they felt Alice's absence. "Dad, when's Mom coming home?" Logan asked, nibbling on his pepperoni slice. "Not sure. She said she had to work late," I replied, ruffling his hair. "She'll probably be back after your bedtime, kiddo." He frowned, but didn't push it. Theo scrolled through his phone, glancing at me occasionally, as if wanting to say something but thinking better of it. Ella just stared at the TV with a bored expression. I felt guilty that I couldn't fill the gap Alice left. She was the nurturing one the kids always went to her first with little concerns or stories from their day. I tried to be a solid dad, but I'd never been as good at reading their emotional states as Alice. Around 9, I tucked Logan into bed, gave Ella a quick hug, and reminded Theo about his math assignment. Once they were in their rooms, I wandered the house aimlessly. The evening quiet felt heavier than usual. I ended up in my study, flicking on the desk lamp. My reflection in the dark window startled me for a second, just a worn-looking man, alone in a big house. I tried to immerse myself in some code, but after an hour of half-hearted attempts, I gave up. A beep from my phone told me it was almost 10. No new messages from Alice, no updates about that so-called emergency. I poured myself a glass of water and flipped on the back porch light. It was mild outside for fall, so I stepped into the yard. That was when I noticed one of our neighbors, Marjorie Stewart, an older widow living 2 houses down, standing on her own porch, leaning over the railing. "Adam?" she called softly. "You okay?" I must have looked lost. I offered a gentle wave. "Yeah, just getting some air." She studied me from across the yard. We'd always been polite acquaintances, occasionally exchanging baked goods during the holidays. "Alice working late again?" she asked, voice hesitant. "Yep. That hospital never quits," I replied with forced cheer. Marjorie nodded. She looked like she wanted to say more, but held back. "You tell her hello from me." "Sure thing." I retreated inside, feeling slightly unsettled. Marjorie was known for her friendly gossip. If she sensed something strange, the whole neighborhood would eventually know. But it wasn't like there was anything to sense, right? A half hour later, I went upstairs. The bed felt too big, the sheets chilly. I stared at the empty pillow next to mine, willing my mind to shut off. It took a long time to fall asleep, my thoughts swirling in anxious circles. I dreamed I was standing in the same bedroom, only the walls were painted a dull gray, and the window blinds were closed. I could hear muffled voices behind the door. Alice laughing with someone else, but I couldn't move to open it. I woke at 2 a.m., heart pounding. The space beside me was still empty. Alice came in around 3, gently nudging me awake as she got under the covers. "Sorry," she whispered. "Didn't mean to wake you." I rubbed my eyes, blinking groggily. "Long night?" I murmured. "Yeah." She eased in and turned on her side, facing away from me. "I'll explain tomorrow." But she never did. That was the moment I realized something was off, something more than just stress or extra shifts. I stared at the back of her head in the faint glow of the streetlight through the window. A weird chill settled into my chest. The perfect facade of our life. The house, the kids, the stable jobs felt like a stage set. I wondered if I'd been too busy, too naive, to notice cracks in that painted backdrop. Eventually, sleep claimed me again, heavy and uneasy. I tried telling myself in those last moments of drowsiness that I was probably overreacting. We had a good marriage. We had everything, right? But from the pit of my stomach, I knew. Something in my world was shifting. I should have been excited for the neighborhood barbecue scheduled that Saturday. Normally, I love these casual gatherings. Everyone shows up in their driveways or yards with folding chairs. Kids run around squealing. Neighbors compare notes on whose lawn got the best landscaping this year. But as I fired up my grill, I couldn't shake the sense that Alice and I were out of sync. She walked over, tray in hand, wearing a floral sundress that used to be her favorite. It looked perfect on her, but she wore an uneasy expression, as if bracing for an exam she hadn't studied for. I forced a grin. "Ready to show these folks your grilling skills? Or did you leave that to me?" She set the tray down next to the grill. I'm just the sous chef today, she joked weakly. You're the grill master. I nodded, noticing a flicker of distraction on her face. We had a few neighbors swirling around us, the smell of charcoal and sizzling chicken wings filling the afternoon air. Marjorie Stewart waved from across the yard, while Mr. Carver from next door debated marinade recipes with a group of older men. The kids were playing in the street with a soccer ball, mixing with other neighborhood kids. That was when I saw Brandon Myers step onto the sidewalk, wearing a crisp polo and pressed shorts, looking like he'd stepped out of a golf magazine. Brandon is a longtime friend of my mother, Catherine, though I never got especially close to him. He's a financial advisor who'd helped a bunch of people in town with their retirement planning. Since Catherine had money from my late father's estate, she trusted him with pretty big decisions. "Hey, Adam," Brandon said, his tone casual as he joined us by the grill. He nodded politely at Alice. "Alice, nice to see you." She looked up from rearranging hamburger buns and gave a polite smile. "Hi, Brandon. Didn't think you'd make it." Brandon shrugged. "I had some free time, so I thought I'd drop by. Catherine mentioned the barbecue." He glanced around. "Where's your mom, anyway?" "Oh, Catherine's around," Alice said before I could open my mouth. "She went to pick up more ice, I think." I had a prickle of annoyance. Why did Alice know my mother's errands? She must have been texting or something. Then again, Catherine might have told her directly. My mother's a talker and loves to loop everyone into her business. I tried to push away the weird vibe. "So, Brandon, want to help me flip these burgers?" I forced a grin. "I could use another set of hands." He chuckled. "Sure thing, though I'm more of a numbers guy than a grill guy." As we bantered about cooking temps, I watched Alice out of the corner of my eye. She kept glancing at her phone, which was perched on a nearby table. Every time the screen lit up, she'd take a quick step to read it, then come back. She probably had hospital alerts set up, or so I told myself. Suddenly, Catherine appeared with a bright smile, carrying a bag of ice. "Got it," she announced. "Adam, dear, you'll thank me later. Drinks are sweating all over the place." She gave Brandon a playful nudge. "And look who decided to join us." He tossed her an easy grin. Couldn't pass up free food. I tried to keep my tone cheerful. "Mom, why don't you help Alice with the cups? We'll keep an assembly line going." A few other neighbors strolled over. Rachel Wu, from my office, who lived 2 streets away, had come with her husband. They were making small talk about a new local coffee shop. I forced myself to focus on them, cracking a few jokes about how I might wire the coffee maker to run code that brews the perfect espresso. When it was time to eat, we spread out in lawn chairs under the shade of a few tall trees. People chatted about everything from next year's yard maintenance to local school events. Theo, Ella, and Logan came bounding over, plates piled high with grilled chicken wings. The scene should have been idyllic, but I couldn't shake the tension building in my gut. At one point, Alice rose to grab a drink from the cooler near Brandon's chair. They shared a few words I couldn't make out. She laughed not her usual laugh, but a softer, quieter one. I realized I was gripping my soda can too tight, denting it. "Hey, Dad, can we do s'mores later?" Ella piped up, pulling me back to reality. "Sure," I replied, setting the crumpled can aside. "I'll see if we have marshmallows." I popped up, crossing toward the house. As I approached the back door, I noticed Brandon and Catherine standing a little apart from the others. They were talking in low tones, but I caught my name. I froze, not wanting to eavesdrop but too curious to walk away. "Adam doesn't suspect a thing," Catherine was saying. Then she lowered her voice, and I missed the next sentence. Brandon nodded, a serious expression crossing his face. My heart hammered. What didn't I suspect? It's probably about some surprise party or investment plan. Right? My mother can be secretive about finances, and she sometimes coordinates things behind my back to take care of me like a pushy caretaker. I decided I was making too big a deal out of it. Still, the knot in my stomach tightened. Back in the kitchen, rummaging for marshmallows, I took a moment to clear my head. We were just at a barbecue. People talk about all sorts of random stuff. Let it go. When I returned with the marshmallows, the conversation had resumed a more jovial vibe. Brandon was entertaining a few folks with a story about his time in college. Catherine waved me over. "Adam, come hear Brandon's frat boy tale," she teased. "He was just telling us how he got locked out of the dorm." Alice shot me a glance that felt complicated. She quickly looked away, nibbling on a corn chip. I stepped closer, putting on my best polite grin. Brandon joked around, the group laughed, and for a moment I questioned my own instincts. Maybe everything was normal, and I was the one overthinking. After all, I'd known Brandon casually for years. He'd always been a charmer, always popped into social events with a smile. Late that evening, after neighbors drifted home and the last of the folding chairs were stacked in the garage, I found Alice alone by the fire pit, half-emptied bag of marshmallows at her side. She was staring into the flickering embers, lost in thought. I sat next to her. The night air was thick with the smell of smoke and cooling charcoal. "You okay?" I asked quietly. She managed a half-smile. "I'm all right. Tired." We listened to the distant crickets for a moment. She wrapped her arms around her knees. I wanted to ask about her sudden hush around Brandon, or that text she kept checking, but she looked so worn out, like she might crack if I pressed too hard. "Barbecue turned out well," I ventured instead. "Yeah," she murmured, eyes flicking across the dying flames. "People seemed happy." She paused, chewing on her lower lip. You looked tense a couple times. That startled me." "Me? I'm not the one who was glued to their phone." Her face tightened. "Sorry if I seem distant. I really am just preoccupied with some hospital stuff. I'll try to be more present, Adam." I should have let it go, but frustration flared in my chest. "Is it just hospital stuff, though? Because you've been out late a lot. You're always texting, and I can't help wondering if something else is going on." She inhaled sharply, as if stung. Then she exhaled, glancing away. "Look, I don't want to argue. I'll do better at explaining myself, okay? Work has been chaotic, not everyone's pulling their weight, so yeah, I'm sorry." The conflict drained out of me as quickly as it rose. I brushed a hand across her shoulder. "I'm not trying to be a jerk, Alice. I care about you. If you're stressed, you can tell me." She nodded, but her eyes were far away. "Let's go inside," she said softly. "I'm cold." We doused the fire pit, heading in without another word. I told myself we'd talk deeper about this later, once we both had time to breathe. But that night, as we lay side by side, I listened to her breathing in the dark, feeling like we were miles apart. Sunday dawned quiet, except for the muffled clatter of breakfast plates from downstairs. I slipped out of bed to find Catherine in the kitchen with the kids. She'd stayed overnight, apparently. She liked to do that sometimes unannounced visits, claiming her house got lonely. She insisted she brought donuts. "Morning, dear." She gave me a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Kids wanted me to make scrambled eggs. I hope you don't mind?" I shrugged. "That's fine. Where's Alice?" Catherine gestured vaguely. "She went to the grocery store. Said you needed a few things." She paused. "You two everything good?" I frowned, grabbing a glass of juice. "Why wouldn't it be?" Catherine pressed her lips into a thin line, then reached up to smooth my hair with an almost maternal fussiness. "You know me, I'm always worried. Just want you to be happy." "Mom, we're good," I said, trying to keep my tone light. Yet I couldn't forget how I overheard her and Brandon whispering about me. She gave me that half-smile again. "All right, if you say so." Then she turned back to the stove, calling out to Logan, "Sweetie, want extra cheese in your eggs?" Theo was at the table, eyes flicking between me and Catherine as if picking up tension. I felt guilty for letting my frustration show. I ruffled his hair and asked about his upcoming basketball tryouts. He lit up, forgetting the tension for the moment. An hour later, Alice returned with groceries. She barely made eye contact with me, focusing on Catherine, who insisted on helping unpack. I pretended to be busy wiping down counters, surreptitiously glancing at them. They chatted about mundane topics: the cost of produce, hospital volunteer programs, the weather. Nothing that answered the questions swirling in my mind. When Catherine left around noon, she gave me a quick peck on the cheek. "Take care, dear," she whispered, adding under her breath, "Call me if you need anything. Really." I wanted to ask, "Need anything about what?" But she was out the door before I could articulate the words. Later that afternoon, Alice took the kids to a park meetup for a few hours. I stayed behind, claiming I had to fix an error in our new software build. After they left, I found myself pacing the house, picking up random objects just to set them down again. I drifted into the living room, staring at photos from our wedding day. We looked so young, Alice's eyes sparkled with that carefree joy of someone who believed in happily ever after. I believed in it too. A text popped up on my phone. It was from my friend Jack Finley. How was the barbecue? Heard Brandon was there, your mom's favorite sidekick, right? I typed a short reply. It was fine. He's around more lately. Then I added, something's off, not sure what. Keep you posted? Jack responded with a thumbs-up emoji. I exhaled, feeling a pang of relief just acknowledging that I wasn't crazy for sensing a shift. The question was that shift just me reading into normal coincidences, Alice's tough job schedule, Catherine's meddling, Brandon being around more often, or was there something bigger? My eyes fell on the mail pile near the door. Bills, coupons, a couple of local newsletters. Right on top was a fancy envelope from Brandon's financial firm. My name was printed in crisp black letters, Adam Coleman, with a swirl of gold around the edges. I opened it up. It was a general invitation to a financial planning seminar, likely the same standard notice he sent to half the neighborhood. But seeing his name on that letterhead made my stomach twist again. I tossed the envelope aside, deciding I needed a distraction. I booted up my laptop, diving into code for a while, determined to quell my nagging thoughts. But every few minutes I caught myself staring blankly at the screen, mind replaying every odd look, every cryptic conversation I'd witnessed over the weekend. That evening, after the kids returned, Alice told me she had extra laundry to do. She barely spoke throughout dinner, a simple spaghetti meal. My attempts at conversation got vague answers or forced smiles. I should have confronted her, but I chickened out. Something about her mood signaled she wasn't ready, and maybe I wasn't ready either. As night fell, I found myself lying awake again, listening to her breathing. My mind looped back to the barbecue, the moment I saw her talk to Brandon, the hush in their voices, and that fleeting, secretive smile. Am I losing my mind, I wondered, staring at the ceiling? Or was this some fleeting phase that would pass if I just gave her time? I drifted in and out of restless sleep, images swirling through my dreams, Brandon's face morphing into a shadow, Catherine whispering about me, Alice texting behind closed doors. Each dream ended with me trying to speak but no sound coming out. I woke at dawn, heart racing, a cold sweat on my forehead. I caught a glimpse of Alice next to me, eyes closed. She looked peaceful in the golden morning light, hair spread across the pillow. The thought that she could be hiding something tore at me, but I forced myself to swallow that feeling for now. It was just another day in Millbrook, where everything seemed perfect. Monday started with a routine so ordinary, it was almost soothing. I helped Logan find his missing shoe, double-checked Theo's permission slip for a school field trip, and teased Ella about hogging the bathroom mirror. Alice was already gone by the time I'd come downstairs, leaving a quick note. Had an early shift, see you tonight. I told myself that was normal. She's done early shifts before, but I still felt that tension in my gut. Work was hectic, which helped distract me. Our biggest client wanted an overhaul of their inventory management module by next month. That meant long hours for me and my team. I had back-to-back meetings with Rachel Wu, who was leading the coding effort. Around noon, I grabbed lunch at my desk. I replayed the weekend barbecue in my head. Catherine had said, Adam doesn't suspect a thing. The memory made me clench my jaw. Was it about a surprise or an investment strategy? Or did it have to do with Alice? As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Hope you're having a good day, dear. Let's have dinner soon, just you and me. I stared at the text. That was unusual. She normally invites Alice or the kids. Why just me? I typed back, sure, we can find a night. Everything okay? She responded almost instantly. Of course, just want to catch up. Love you. I set my phone aside, unsettled. Catherine's sudden interest in a one-and-done dinner made me more suspicious. But again, I tried to reason that maybe she wanted to talk about some sensitive financial matter or surprise. She'd pulled stunts like that before, although typically they involved my birthday or some philanthropic donation. Yet the words, Adam doesn't suspect a thing, still lingered like a bad aftertaste. I forced myself back to work. At least code was something I could control. That evening, I arrived home to find the house silent. Theo and Ella were at a friend's place for a group study session. Logan was at a sleepover, and Alice was apparently still at the hospital. The emptiness felt eerie. I tossed my keys on the kitchen island and realized I had no plan for dinner, so I microwaved some leftovers, sat alone at the dining table, and tried not to let my mind spiral. About half an hour later, I heard the front door. Alice walked in, wearing scrubs, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She gave me a faint smile. "Hey, you haven't eaten?" "Just did," I said, gesturing to my plate. "But there's more if you're hungry." She glanced at it. "I'm not really hungry. Maybe I'll shower first." I watched her set her bag down. "Long day?" She sighed. "Yeah, exhausting." Then she moved down the hall to our bedroom, closing the door behind her. Something about that moment made me feel like a stranger in my own home, her reluctance to even share the slightest detail. She used to come home bursting with stories about patients or silly hospital gossip. Now, nothing. A few minutes later, I heard the shower running. My mind churned with half-baked worries. I decided it might help to do something normal, so I tidied up the living room, collected scattered papers, reorganized the mail. That's when I saw a folded piece of notepaper that had fallen behind the side table. My name was scribbled on the front in Alice's handwriting. I picked it up, confused. We rarely wrote each other notes on random paper. This must have slipped out of her bag. Without thinking, I opened it. "Brandon, I can't keep." The rest was incomplete, like she'd started writing but stopped abruptly. A pen mark trailed off the edge of the page. My brain short-circuited. "Brandon, I can't keep what?" This was definitely Alice's handwriting, but the note was incomplete. Had she been writing a letter to Brandon? Why would she do that? My stomach clenched. Maybe it was something about hospital shifts or finances, but the note felt too personal. Why address it to him by first name, with that urgent tone? The next line was barely visible. "Should talk soon." My heart drummed loudly in my ears. For a split second, I considered the possibility that maybe they were discussing some medical fundraiser. But deep down, that felt like a lie. A bigger fear prickled at the back of my mind. Was there a deeper connection between Alice and Brandon? I refolded the note, sliding it into my pocket. My hand shook. In the background, the shower hissed. If I confronted her now, it would be me storming into the bathroom, brandishing a cryptic note like a lunatic. No, I needed more context. "Don't jump to conclusions," I told myself. Still, my chest felt tight. When Alice emerged, she looked drained, towel wrapped around her hair. "I'm gonna lie down," she murmured. I nodded, swallowing the urge to ask about the note. She crossed to the bedroom, and I followed, feeling tension coil in my gut. She lay down with a sigh. I sat at the edge of the bed, hands clasped together. "You sure you're okay?" I asked quietly. "Yeah," she said, eyes closed. "Just have a headache." I brushed my palm across her forehead. She didn't push me away, but she didn't lean into my touch either. "Maybe you should take tomorrow off if you can," I said. "You've been working like crazy." "Can't," she replied curtly. "People are relying on me." I sat there for a minute, then forced myself to leave her in peace. As I went to my study, I couldn't help the swirl of suspicion in my mind. That note weighed heavily in my pocket. The phrase, "Brandon, I can't keep," hammered my thoughts. Over the next few days, I searched for an explanation. I tried subtle ways of raising Brandon's name. Once, I asked if she knew how his financial seminar went. She gave a vague shrug, saying she hadn't talked to him. Another time, I mentioned Catherine might be meeting with Brandon soon. Alice simply said, "That's your mother's business," and changed the subject. On Wednesday night, I texted Catherine about scheduling the dinner she'd suggested. She replied with a date the following week, which was fine. I reminded myself not to jump to wild conclusions, but the tension in my chest wouldn't let up. Thursday morning, I woke early, determined to pay more attention to Alice's phone routine. She always charged it on the nightstand. As she was dressing for work, I saw her glance at a text. Her expression went from neutral to troubled in a split second. Then she locked the screen quickly. "What's going on?" I asked, voice husky with sleep. She startled. "Nothing, just Dr. Evans. Probably telling me we're understaffed again." I nodded slowly. "You sure everything's okay there?" "Yeah," she said too quickly. turning her back as she buttoned her blouse. "I gotta go. I'll see you tonight." Left alone in bed, I stared at the ceiling. My heart pounded with the sense that something was slipping through my grasp. The note in my desk drawer, the late-night shifts, the hushed tension around Brandon's name. I felt myself teetering between denial and a sinking suspicion that my marriage was not what it seemed. Friday evening, we found ourselves invited to a small gathering at the home of one of Alice's hospital co-workers, Melissa Tucker. She was hosting a casual dinner for a few staff members and their spouses. Part of me hoped this would be a chance to confirm that Alice really was just immersed in hospital drama. Maybe I'd see Dr. Evans, they'd talk about staffing issues, and my mind would be put at ease. We arrived at Melissa's suburban home, ringed by a neat lawn and potted plants. Stepping inside, we were greeted by about a dozen people. Some were in scrubs, fresh off a shift, others dressed casually. It felt warm and bustling, the smell of lasagna drifting from the kitchen. Alice introduced me around. "This is my husband, Adam," she said with a small smile. For a moment, I glimpsed her old self, bright-eyed, proud to show me off. I relaxed a bit, chatting with a couple of nurses about the best local pizza place. Then a tall man approached us with a handshake, Dr. Elias Evans himself. He wore a crisp collared shirt, leaning into a casual vibe. "Good to finally meet you, Adam," Dr. Evans said, voice friendly. "Alice speaks highly of you." I forced a laugh. "All good things, I hope." Alice smiled. "Well, he's the brains behind some innovative software, so I can't help bragging." That warmed me. For a stretch of the evening, everything felt normal, like the tension of the past few weeks didn't exist. Alice sipped a glass of wine, occasionally touching my arm in a companionable way. Dr. Evans regaled us with bizarre anecdotes from the ER. Melissa teased Alice about how she's the queen of covering shifts. But as I reached for a second beer, I overheard a snippet of conversation behind me. One of the nurses was talking to her colleague. "You know, it's weird. I never see Alice at the ER these nights she says she's working. She might be in a different department, but still—" She trailed off, noticing me. "Oh, hey, Adam," she said awkwardly, clearing her throat. I gave a little nod, the words echoing in my mind. "I never see Alice at the ER these nights she says she's working." I tried to act casual. "Sometimes she covers floors outside the ER, right?" The nurse shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "I guess so. Could be she's up in the surgical ward or doing administrative stuff. Hard to keep track." I forced a grin. "Right, yeah, that must be it." But the words lodged like a splinter. If she's not in the ER and Dr. Evans claims she's not always with him, where exactly was Alice at those late hours? Alice approached at that moment, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Having fun?" she asked, taking in the nurse's awkward posture. "Sure," I said, my voice sounding hollow. "Yeah, it's great." The nurse mumbled something about needing to find Melissa, then left. Alice gave me a questioning look. But before I could respond, Dr. Evans called her over to help with something. She flashed me an apologetic smile. "Be right back." I stood there, sipping my beer, the swirling chatter of the room fading into a dull hum. If she wasn't always at the hospital, where was she? And did this tie back to that note addressed to Brandon? We drove home in near silence. Alice claimed she was tired, so I didn't push conversation. Once we pulled into our driveway, she headed inside, muttering something about checking an email from Dr. Evans. I lingered in the car, engine off, staring at the darkened street. A single question pounded in my thoughts. What if the unthinkable is happening? It seemed insane. Alice and I had been together for years, built a family, overcame normal obstacles. But the more I tried to push away the suspicion, the stronger it got. Eventually, I trudged inside. Alice had already gone upstairs. I found the kids fast asleep. I peeked in on them. Theo sprawled on his bed, Ella curled up with headphones, Logan snoring softly. They were so precious, so clueless about adult problems. Part of me wanted to shield them forever from any notion that something might be wrong between their mom and me. I wandered to my study, turned on the desk lamp, and retrieved that half-written note. Brandon, I can't keep. The incomplete sentence stared back at me. My hand tightened around the paper. At that moment, I felt something crack inside me. Not enough to cause a meltdown, but enough to know I needed answers. The possibility that my wife might be lying, might be having an affair with Brandon sat like a stone in my stomach, and my mother might be tangled up in it somehow. All those side comments about me not suspecting a thing, I set the note down, mind whirring. Another question emerged. Was I willing to find out the truth even if it destroyed the life we built? The alternative, living in ignorance, felt worse. I glanced at the clock. 12:20 a.m. Alice was probably asleep by now. Upstairs, the house was dark and still. Tomorrow was Saturday. Another weekend. Another chance to pretend everything was normal, or to finally break the illusion. Saturday arrived with an overcast sky, a slight drizzle pattering the windows. I woke to a quiet house. The kids were in their rooms and Alice was nowhere to be seen. I found a note on the kitchen table in her flowing handwriting. Went to pick up groceries. Be back soon. I sighed, rummaging for the coffee filters. My nerves were still shot from the previous night's revelations. I replayed that nurse's comment in my head. I never see Alice at the ER these nights. She says she's working. Could it have been a misunderstanding? Possibly. But combined with everything else, the note, the tension, Brandon's presence, it felt like jigsaw pieces forming a bleak picture. Half an hour later, I was sipping coffee at the kitchen island when Theo and Ella stumbled in. Theo wore a basketball jersey, hair messy, while Ella scrolled her phone like it was fused to her hand. "Where's Mom?" Theo asked, yawning. "Grocery store," I said. "She left a note." Ella looked up from her screen. "Did she say anything about me going to Jessica's house later?" "She didn't mention it, but I don't see why not. Let's wait for her to get back, okay?" Ella shrugged, drifting toward the fridge. Theo plopped onto a stool, rubbing his eyes. I tried to be my usual dad self, asking them about their weekend plans, but I felt detached. My mind kept skipping to Alice. Eventually, Alice returned with a couple of plastic bags. She set them on the counter with a cursory, "Hey." She looked at me warily, almost like she expected confrontation. I cleared my throat. "Need help?" She gave a tiny nod. We unpacked cereal boxes, fruits, and a loaf of bread. The kids hovered in the living room, turning on the TV. Once they were out of earshot, I couldn't help myself. "Everything okay at the hospital this weekend?" She avoided my gaze, focusing on a carton of eggs. "It's fine. Why?" I swallowed. I'm curious if you were scheduled for anything unusual last night." She stiffened. "No. Why do you ask?" I paused, unsure if I should mention the nurse's comment. Finally, I opted for caution. "Just wanted to make sure you're not overworking." She exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders slightly. "I appreciate that, Adam. Really." She placed the eggs in the fridge. "But can we not talk about the hospital right now? Let's just have a normal Saturday, okay?" I glanced at her, noticing the shadows under her eyes. "Sure," I lied. "A normal Saturday, right?" By mid-morning, the kids were scattered. Ella at her friends, Theo biking around with a neighbor, and Logan playing in the backyard with a friend from school. That left Alice and me alone in the house. I was in the living room, flipping through channels when she approached cautiously. "Adam, can we talk?" she asked, voice soft. My pulse quickened. "Yeah, of course." She sat down next to me on the couch, not too close, arms folded as if hugging herself. "I know things have felt tense. I don't want you worrying about me. I'm just dealing with personal stuff, and it's not easy to explain." I forced a careful tone. "If it's personal, can I help? We've always leaned on each other." She looked torn, eyes glistening for a moment. "It's something I have to figure out on my own," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "And I need you to trust me." My mind immediately went to that note addressed to Brandon, but I couldn't bring myself to mention it yet. "I do trust you," I said, though my chest felt tight. "It's just you've been distant, and I'm worried." She gave a sad smile. "I know. I'm sorry." She reached for my hand, gave it a gentle squeeze. "It's not about you or us, exactly. I'm just in my head a lot." My pulse pounded in my ears. "You're sure it's not something I did? Or someone else?" Her eyes flicked away. "No, it's not that." A wave of relief mingled with doubt. She was lying, or maybe telling a half-truth, but I couldn't parse which. Then, too quickly, she stood. "I'm going for a walk. Need some fresh air." I watched her go, feeling more confused than ever. That half-finished confession, "Brandon, I can't keep," replayed in my mind like a broken record. She was definitely hiding something. Was I going crazy? After lunch, I busied myself with yard work, trimming bushes and raking leaves that had started to fall early. The sky remained overcast, the air thick with the promise of rain. Across the street, I saw Marjorie Stewart sweeping her driveway. She lifted a hand in greeting. "Hey there," she called. "How's your Saturday?" "Can't complain," I lied. I pushed the rake, piling leaves. "Though it looks like we might get a downpour soon." She nodded, gaze flicking up to the sky. "You and Alice doing all right?" The directness of her question caught me off guard. "We're fine," I said more brusquely than I intended. "Why?" Marjorie hesitated, then shrugged. "Just that I've seen her car coming and going at odd hours. I didn't want to pry, but you two seem, well, quieter." Something in my expression must have worried her. She quickly added, "I'm sure it's nothing. Sorry to be a nosy neighbor." I forced a smile. "No worries, Marjorie. We're just busy is all." She gave a sympathetic nod, returning to her sweeping. I resumed raking but couldn't escape the heavy feeling in my chest. Even our neighbor noticed the weird pattern of Alice's comings and goings. I recalled how last week she got home at 3 in the morning. Could she really have been at the hospital that entire time, especially if her co-workers rarely saw her? The rain started as a drizzle, forcing me to wrap up the yard work. I hurried inside, water dripping from my jacket. Alice was in the kitchen, rearranging the pantry. She didn't look up when I entered, just said, "Hey," in a bland voice. I set my jacket on a chair. "It's raining pretty steadily," I offered, just to fill the silence. She nodded. "Good for the plants, I guess." The tension between us felt suffocating, like we were each waiting for the other to say something that would fracture the fragile peace. Finally, she shut the pantry door a little too hard and turned to me. "Adam, let's do something normal tonight," she said, voice clipped. "Order takeout, watch a movie with the kids, no questions, no heavy talks, please." Part of me bristled at her dictating the terms, but I was also desperate to recapture some sense of normalcy. "Okay," I said quietly. "Sure, we can do that." So we did. We pretended to be the typical suburban family for an evening. We ordered Chinese food, laughed at a cheesy comedy on Netflix, and told Logan he could stay up an extra half hour if he finished all his broccoli. On the surface, everything was calm. But I felt like an actor in a low-budget play, reciting lines I no longer believed in. As the kids went to bed, Alice retreated again. I found her in the master bedroom, folding laundry in silence. Something about the mechanical way she folded each shirt made me realize how fragile she seemed. For a fleeting moment, I wanted to hold her to say, "Whatever it is, I'm here." But the words stuck in my throat. I didn't trust them anymore. That night, I had trouble sleeping again. My mind whirled with possible explanations for Alice's behavior. A hidden financial problem? Some personal crisis she felt too ashamed to share? But the note to Brandon overshadowed all other theories. If it was money-related, why address it so intimately? If it was hospital stuff, she'd have told me something. So that left no. I didn't want to say it out loud. The possibility of an affair was too devastating. We'd built a life together. But the puzzle pieces refused to fit any other way. Could Catherine know? She and Brandon seemed chummy. Maybe Catherine was just oblivious. Or maybe she was involved somehow. The thought made me sick. Morning came with an unwelcome jolt. My phone buzzed at 6:45, an alarm I'd set to see if Alice was up. She was already gone. Left a text at 5:30. Went to hospital, early urgent coverage needed. I stared at the message, feeling that familiar knot tighten. I forced myself to get up, handle the kids, and maintain an outward calm. They bickered about cereal choices, asked me random questions about their weekend schedules, oblivious to the turmoil in my head. I played the role of dad, stable, reassuring, cracking mild jokes about how we should boycott math homework. The entire time, a storm brewed inside my chest. By noon, I found myself in my home office, a place I rarely used now that we had an actual office building for Coleman Tech Solutions. I rummaged through old desk drawers, searching for anything that might give me peace of mind. Bank statements, old diaries, letters. My heart pounded with each rummage, expecting some sign that everything was fine, or bracing for evidence that my worst fear was true. I found nothing conclusive, just ancient receipts, photos from years ago, a stash of holiday cards. But the very act of searching made me realize how desperate I'd become. I was rummaging in my own home, looking for proof that my wife wasn't lying to me. The realization stung. Afternoon drifted by in a haze. Alice texted she'd be home around 7, if all goes well. The kids had after-school programs. My phone beeped with an invitation from Catherine. "Dinner next week, don't forget, I'll text you details." That was a ticking clock reminding me I'd soon have to face her. I tried to code, to bury myself in logic, but I couldn't concentrate. Every line blurred and my frustration mounted. Eventually, I shut the laptop, pacing the living room. That was when I decided I wasn't going to keep living in this uncertain, paranoid state. I had a right to know if my wife was lying, if my mother was covering for something. I needed clarity, no matter how painful it might be. But how to get it? I stared at the family photos on the mantle vacations, birthdays, a life I cherished. My eyes landed on a shot from a trip to Cape Cod. Alice was wearing sunglasses, bright grin, leaning against me while the kids splashed in the background. If that was real, then maybe we could still fix this. But if it was all a mirage, I sank onto the couch, mind swirling. My mother's words haunted me. Adam doesn't suspect a thing. The incomplete letter to Brandon. The nurse's confusion about Alice's schedule. The hush at the barbecue. All these signs pointed to something bigger, something ugly. I tried to gather my courage. Soon, I thought, I'll start asking the hard questions. For now, I would keep my suspicions quiet. Because once I opened that Pandora's box, there would be no going back to the facade of a happy family. That facade was already cracking, but it was the only thing holding us together. I breathed, telling myself I'd give it a bit more time. Just enough to see if Alice would come clean or if I could catch a real clue to prove I wasn't crazy. My heart pounded with anxiety and a trace of fear because deep down I sensed the life I knew was on the brink of unraveling. Outside, the clouds gathered again. The hush of the house pressed in on me, heavy and foreboding. It felt like the calm before a storm, a slow-building tension that would soon demand a resolution. I sat there for what felt like hours, listening to my own heartbeat, waiting for Alice to return. The day after my private decision to seek real answers was miserable and overcast. It was the sort of morning that made Millbrook's quaint streets look dreary, like the color had been dialed down on everything. I tried to go about work at my office, but my thoughts were pinned on one thing. I needed help. Early on, I searched online for private investigators. Initially, I balked at how shady that felt, like I was jumping straight into espionage. But eventually, I stumbled onto an agency's website recommended by an old friend. A name stood out: James Glover. The friend described him as thorough but discreet, which is exactly what I needed. I didn't even tell my best buddy Jack about this step, partly because it felt too raw to share. Instead, I sat in my car during lunch hour, phone clenched in my hand, breath steaming up the windshield. After 5 minutes of internal back and forth, I called Glover's number. A crisp, businesslike voice answered. "This is James Glover." Hi, my name is Adam," I said, heart pounding. "I got your contact from a mutual acquaintance. I'm looking for someone who can, look into a personal matter with absolute confidentiality." Glover's tone softened. "I understand, Mr. Coleman. Let's talk in person if you're comfortable. I know a quiet cafe off Birch Street. We could meet this evening." He gave me the address. I jotted it down on a sticky note, pulse racing. "All right, see you around 6? 6 works." I hung up, exhaling like I'd just run a sprint. Hiring a private investigator to watch my wife and possibly my own mother felt surreal. Yet a numb resolve had settled over me. If there was any chance my worst fears were correct, I needed proof. And if I was wrong, at least I'd have peace of mind. That evening, I told Alice I had a late client meeting. She nodded distractedly, then went right back to flipping through something on her phone. No follow-up questions. It cut me that she didn't even seem curious. But maybe that was a blessing because it meant I could slip out unnoticed. The cafe on Birch Street was called Riverstone Roast, though the nearest river was miles away. It was small, dimly lit, with just enough jazz music playing to cloak private conversations. I spotted a man in a dark blazer sitting by a corner table, scanning the room with sharp, patient eyes. Guessing he was Glover, I approached. "You must be Adam," he said, standing to shake my hand. He was taller than I expected, with neatly trimmed hair that had just a hint of gray. His eyes had a calm intensity, like he missed nothing. "Thanks for meeting me," I managed, sliding into the seat opposite him. My voice sounded too loud for the quiet space. A waitress passed, and Glover ordered coffee. I just asked for water, my stomach too knotted to handle caffeine. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He was letting me gather my thoughts. Eventually, I cleared my throat. "All right," I began, trying to keep my tone steady. "I need you to look into my wife, Alice Coleman, and potentially my mother, Catherine Coleman. This is complicated." Glover nodded. "Take your time. Tell me what's going on." So I did. I started from the weird hospital calls, the odd hours, the hush in her voice. I explained who Brandon Myers was, a financial advisor close to my mother, and how she'd been praising him. I described overhearing Alice's phone call, the half-finished note to Brandon, and the nurse's offhand remark that cast doubt on Alice's late-night shifts. I tried not to sound paranoid, but even I could hear the cracks in my voice. Glover jotted quick notes in a small leather-bound notebook. When I finished, he set his pen down. "You're primarily worried about an affair between your wife and this Brandon Myers, correct?" I swallowed. "Yes, though it's insane even saying it out loud. We've been married over a decade, but there's more." Leaning forward, I confessed, "I suspect my mother knows something. She's meddlesome. And I overheard her telling Brandon I don't suspect a thing." He raised an eyebrow. "That's pretty direct. So your mother may be involved, or at least aware." I winced. "Yes, and it's possible there's more than an affair going on. Could be financial manipulation. Brandon's her advisor. She trusts him completely." Glover exhaled thoughtfully. "All right, Mr. Coleman, I see a few angles. First, we can verify your wife's actual whereabouts during these so-called hospital shifts. We'll also check phone logs and see if she and Myers have patterns of communication. If you suspect financial shenanigans, that's trickier, but we can do some preliminary digging." He paused as the waitress returned with our drinks. After she left, he continued, "I'll run background checks on Brandon and look into property records like that beach house you mentioned your mother owns. Discreet surveillance can confirm who's going in and out. That alone might give us clarity." I clenched my glass. I hate snooping like this, but I'm at the end of my rope. If you find nothing, I'll be relieved. But if you find something... My voice trailed off. Glover's gaze held steady. "I understand. Let's start with the basics. I'll need any phone numbers, addresses, or personal details you have. Also, any access you can grant to your phone plan might help." I nodded, pulling out a folder of info I'd compiled Alice's phone number, a copy of Catherine's beach house address, approximate times Alice had claimed she was working. I hadn't realized how thoroughly I'd prepared until I saw Glover's reaction. He gave a thin, approving smile. "This will help me hit the ground running," he said, slipping the papers into his own folder. "Discretion is paramount. I work alone or with one trusted associate, so word doesn't get out." I rubbed my temples. "Thank you. Just let me know if you find anything at all. I need to be sure." Glover offered a firm nod. "I'll get started tonight, Mr. Coleman. I'll be in touch." Driving home afterward, I felt both a sense of grim determination and a wave of guilt. I was effectively spying on my wife. But then again, if she were truly deceiving me, I had a right to know. A part of me still prayed Glover would come back with a polite phone call saying, "It's all a misunderstanding." When I got home, the house was quiet. The kids were asleep, and Alice was in bed. She didn't stir as I climbed under the covers. I watched her for a moment in the dim glow from the streetlight outside our window. She looked peaceful, almost innocent. My stomach twisted. If I was wrong, I'd be the world's biggest jerk. But if I was right... Eventually, I turned over, heart pounding. Sleep came in fits, dreams filled with half-seen figures and whispered accusations. By morning, I felt like I'd barely rested. Over the next few days, life moved on at its usual pace, yet I checked my phone constantly. I half expected Glover to call or text any minute with earth-shattering news, but it was radio silence for almost a week. I didn't know if that meant he'd found nothing or if it was taking time to compile evidence. Meanwhile, Alice's behavior remained cautious, distant. She left early, came home late, gave me clipped explanations about staff shortages. The tension in my chest grew daily. One morning after the kids had rushed off to school, I sat sipping coffee, staring at the sticky note on which I'd jotted Glover's number. My phone buzzed. Unknown caller. My heart slammed. I picked up. "Hello?" "It's Glover," said the familiar, steady voice. "Can you talk?" "Yes," I said, voice tight. "What's up?" "I'd prefer to update you in person if you have time this evening. There's enough here that we should talk face to face." My stomach lurched. "Sure, same cafe?" He hesitated. "Might be better we meet somewhere else. My car, maybe. Let me text you an address in the next hour." "Okay, I'll be there." We hung up. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might bruise my ribs from the inside. The fact he didn't even want to meet in a cafe told me this was serious. I set my coffee mug down with a shaky hand. Something told me my life was about to change forever. That evening, after spinning some excuse for Alice about a company project milestone, I drove to a remote corner of Millbrook's municipal parking lot. Dim streetlights flickered overhead. Glover's black sedan was parked near the far end, away from most cars. I felt like a character in a spy movie as I walked over and got into the passenger seat. Glover nodded a greeting. The overhead light was off, so I could barely see his face. "Sorry for the cloak and dagger," he said quietly, "but I've found enough that I didn't want to risk a public setting." I swallowed. "Just tell me." He handed me a manila envelope. "You'll want to look at these when you're alone, but I'll summarize. Your wife wasn't at the hospital on 4 separate nights this week. She did show up for some shifts, but other times she was lying to you." My throat was so tight I could barely speak. "And she was with Brandon?" "Yes. I have photos of her car parked at that beach house you mentioned. Property records confirm it belongs to Catherine Coleman. Brandon's Mercedes was there too. They stayed for hours after midnight." I stared at the envelope in my lap. "So they're definitely together?" Glover took a breath. "I didn't see explicit romantic activity from my vantage points, but the pattern is clear. They arrive separately, typically about half an hour apart. Then they spend the night in the house. They leave before sunrise. This isn't just a friendly chat, Mr. Coleman." My head spun. So the wife I believed was working at the hospital was sneaking around with Brandon Myers at my mother's beach house. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part felt numb. "What about Catherine?" I asked, voice hoarse. Glover adjusted in his seat. "She wasn't physically present during any of these nights, but based on phone logs, your mother and Brandon communicate frequently late-night calls and texts. Also, phone records show Alice and Brandon contact each other daily. The content of those calls is unknown for now, but it's suspicious." I balled my hands into fists. "So Catherine might be letting them use the beach house or even encouraging it." Glover nodded. "Yes, it's quite possible. Your mother seems complicit, or at least fully aware." A wave of hot rage rippled through me, quickly replaced by heartbreak. God, this is insane. My mother and my wife conspiring behind my back? For how long? Glover sighed. "Hard to say. I can keep digging. If you want more specific details like finances, or how often they've used that property, we could expand the investigation. But I've already confirmed enough that any lawyer could interpret as grounds for a serious marital breach." I took a shaky breath. "What about my kids?" The question flew out before I could stop it. "You think maybe Brandon is?" My voice died. I couldn't bring myself to say their father. Glover was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke gently. "We can do discrete DNA testing if you suspect that, but it's more complicated. Usually we'd need fresh samples from the kids, unless there are medical records I could obtain or older tests we can cross-reference. Or, well, if you can discreetly gather hair or something with the children's DNA. My stomach heaved. I don't know. but the possibility had been gnawing at the back of my mind for weeks now. Glover laid a hand on the envelope. "Look, Mr. Coleman, you wanted the truth. I've given you a piece of it. If you want to press further, especially about paternity, I can try, but that will take more time and deeper infiltration." I felt tears burn behind my eyes. I blinked them back, chest tight. "Yes," I finally managed. "I need to know everything. If he's their father, I have to know." Glover nodded solemnly. "Understood. I'll proceed carefully. In the meantime, keep these photos and notes hidden. You said your mother visits your place sometimes, right? And your wife could stumble on them. I recommend a secure location." I thanked him in a hollow tone. We agreed on a next step. I'd provide Glover with any items containing the kid's DNA, like used toothbrushes or hairbrushes, so he could arrange private lab tests. Then I stepped out of the car, envelope in hand, reeling from the reality I'd just faced. My entire world had crashed into a state of suspicion and betrayal. The numbness gave way to anger as I drove home, tears blurring the streetlights. My mother, my wife, Brandon Myers, they were all lying to me. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles whitened. I wondered if they laughed at how clueless I'd been, how trusting. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I realized I couldn't go inside yet. The house was lit, probably with Alice putting the kids to bed. I just sat in the car, trying to steady my breathing. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked haunted, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Eventually, I slipped in quietly. Alice was in the living room, reading a magazine. She glanced up. "You're late," she said, tone neutral. "Long meeting," I mumbled, heading straight to the bedroom to hide the envelope in a locked file drawer. Then I took a hot shower, letting the water pummel my skin until it nearly scalded. My mind replayed Glover's words over and over. Beach house, different nights, phone logs your mother. When I climbed into bed, Alice pretended to be asleep. Fine. I wasn't in the mood to talk either. A furious, sick feeling churned in my gut. The bed we once shared in love now felt like enemy territory. I stared at the ceiling for hours, the hush of the suburban night pressing in. Rain tapped lightly against the window, as though it wanted to remind me I was alive, physically present. But everything about my life was different now. The illusions I clung to had been shattered, and I knew there was more to uncover. I could sense it in every breath. The next morning I woke with a splitting headache, courtesy of my restless night. My mind was in a fog, but I knew I couldn't just skip out on life. The kids needed breakfast, and I had a backlog of tasks at my software company. But as I poured cereal for Logan, my hand trembled. "Dad, are you okay?" Logan asked, wide-eyed. I forced a smile. "I'm fine, buddy. Just a bit tired." Theo and Ella, noticing the tension, kept their chatter minimal. Alice breezed through, claiming she was late for work. She gave each kid a hasty kiss on the forehead and mumbled a goodbye to me. I avoided her eyes, muttering a curt, "Bye." She left, and I felt the oxygen return to the room. After dropping the kids at school, I headed to the office but struggled to focus. My employee, Rachel Wu, popped into my workspace, handing me a progress report. "Adam, are you okay? You look wrecked." I sighed. "Long night, Rachel. Nothing to worry about. Thanks for the update." She offered a sympathetic nod and left me alone. I stared at the code on my screen strings of logic that normally calmed me, but my head was too full of the RLFA puzzle overshadowing everything. Shortly after lunch, my phone buzzed. James Glover again. I hurried to a quiet corner of the hallway. "Yeah?" I answered, voice hushed. His tone was calm but urgent. "I have the initial hospital logs you requested. You're going to want to see them. Also, I found something else you might want." I swallowed. "All right. Where do you want to meet?" He suggested a parking garage downtown, less obvious than the previous night's location. We agreed on 5:30. I returned to my desk, adrenaline pounding. If Glover was calling this soon, it had to be significant. At 5:30, I parked on the second level of the downtown garage. Glover's sedan was already there. The place was quiet, echoing with the hum of fluorescent lights. I slipped into the passenger seat again, my pulse throbbing in my ears. He had another manila folder ready. First, the hospital records. He handed me a sheaf of printouts. "I have a contact who can access scheduling data, nothing too deep, but enough to see that your wife wasn't scheduled on many of those nights she claimed to be." I skimmed the columns of times and shifts, my stomach sinking. Alice had told me she was covering for Dr. Evans or picking up overnight shifts in the ER, but Glover's data indicated she wasn't logged in or scheduled on those specific dates. So she definitely lied, I whispered. He nodded gravely. Yes, and it gets worse. He pulled out some photos. My breath caught. They were surveillance shots, grainy but clear enough. Alice's car in the driveway of Catherine's beach house, headlights off, time-stamped at around 2 a.m. Another shot showed Brandon's Mercedes parked next to it. In one photo, you could see two silhouettes at a window, partially obscured by curtains. I stared at them, my chest tight. You said last time you didn't see explicit romantic activity, but these pictures... He spoke gently. I tailed them a bit more aggressively. They've used that house on multiple nights. The silhouettes, well, you can draw your own conclusions. There's no sign of separate bedrooms. They come and go at staggered times, usually within an hour of each other. My ears buzzed. I could practically see them stepping inside, shutting the door, while I sat at home with the kids, clueless. So it's definitely an affair, I mumbled, rage and heartbreak swirling. Glover nodded. I've never seen them physically together, but the pattern is strong. There's more, though. You asked about the children. I found a way to confirm some medical records. That's more sensitive, but I have a contact in another state who can facilitate discrete DNA testing if you can collect a sample from each child. I swallowed thickly. Yeah, I'll do it. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. They have toothbrushes and hairbrushes. Maybe I can gather strands. The idea of swiping the kids' hair to confirm if I'm really their father made me feel grimy, but I had no choice. Glover hesitated. There's something else. I found references to an older hospital record from about 9 years ago, around Logan's birth. It's incomplete, but it suggests that Brandon Myers was present at the hospital soon after the delivery. Not sure if it's a coincidence or if your mother invited him. I stared, mind spinning. Brandon was there? I racked my memory for Logan's birth. Alice delivered him at Millbrook General, and Catherine was definitely around, but I never recalled Brandon visiting. Why would he be there? I murmured. Glover shrugged gently. That's one piece of the puzzle. Might be worth investigating further. If the kids aren't biologically yours, it's possible they've known for a while. A chill shot up my spine. My mother had known? Alice had known? Everyone but me? I felt nauseous. All right, I rasped. I need to confirm paternity. Then we'll go from there. We discussed logistics. Glover explained the best way to bag a few strands of each kid's hair or snag used toothbrushes, sealing them in labeled envelopes. He'd handle the rest. The conversation left me hollow. After we finished, I sat in my car for nearly 10 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. The rest of the evening was a blur. I ate dinner mechanically with the kids. Alice was working late, again an obvious lie. I told the kids she had an emergency, heart twisting at how gullible I sounded. Late that night, I quietly gathered 3 toothbrushes from the bathroom, replaced them with new ones from the storage cabinet, hoping no one would notice. My hands trembled as I labeled each plastic bag. Theo, Ella, Logan. I dropped them off in Glover's mailbox before dawn the next day, feeling like I was crossing a moral line. But everything about this situation was twisted already. If the children were biologically mine, I'd at least have that comfort. If they weren't, I dreaded the heartbreak I might unleash. Days passed in a fog of waiting. I avoided direct confrontations with Alice, partly out of fear I'd break and scream, partly because I still needed the paternity results. Meanwhile, I was plagued by memories of each child's birth. Theo was born after a long labor. I remember holding Alice's hand as she writhed through contractions, tears in my eyes, telling her she was doing great. When Theo finally arrived, I cut the umbilical cord. The nurse handed me a squirming, perfect baby boy. I cried with relief and joy, never questioning whether he was mine. Ella came 2 years later at dawn. Alice had joked that she was too exhausted for a second labor, but it went surprisingly quick. I was the first to hold Ella. She blinked up at me with these wide, curious eyes, and I felt my heart expand. Catherine was there, cooing over her granddaughter. Logan was the baby of the family, born 9 years ago. That time we had the routine down, hospital bag, birthing suite. Catherine arrived just after he was born, snapping pictures, fussing over Alice. I didn't see Brandon at all, never would have guessed he might be lurking in the halls. Now Glover's partial record suggested otherwise. One evening, alone in my study, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. I noticed for the first time that Logan had light brown hair that eventually turned darker, kind of like Brandon's. Theo's facial structure sometimes reminded me of my own father, but maybe I was seeing what I wanted. Ella had a dimple I couldn't trace back to either me or Alice. My mind spiraled, analyzing every detail like a detective. When Glover finally called, I almost dropped my phone in my haste to answer. "Adam here," I said, breathless. "Adam, I have your test results," Glover said calmly. "Can we meet now?" "Yes, now. Same place as last time?" He hesitated. "I booked a small motel room outside town for privacy. Less suspicious than the garage. I'll text you the address." Less than an hour later, I pulled into a motel parking lot just off the highway. The neon sign flickered, "Vacancy." It was the kind of place traveling salesmen might crash for a night, not a typical Millbrook hangout. I spotted Glover's sedan near room 108 and knocked softly. He opened the door, let me in, and locked the door behind us. The room smelled faintly of stale smoke, though a sign on the wall read, "No smoking." A single lamp cast a pale glow. Glover gestured to a small table with 2 chairs. A sealed manila envelope lay on it. My heart pounded like a drum. "Have a seat," he said. "I just got these from my contact." I sank down, palms sweaty. Glover slid the envelope over. I tore it open, scanning the top sheet. My eyes locked on the phrase, "Probability of paternity, 0%. The line repeated under each child's name: Theo, Ella, Logan. Each one indicated a match to a separate paternal sample that matched Brandon Myers' partial DNA on file. My vision blurred. "None of them are mine," I choked out. It wasn't even a question. The paper spelled it clearly. Brandon was the father of all 3. Glover's voice was low. "I'm sorry, Adam." The motel's cheap air conditioner rattled as I fought to control my breathing. My children, the ones I diapered, fed, took to soccer games, taught how to ride bikes, none of them had my DNA. For a moment, the betrayal was too big to process. I felt outside my own body like this was happening to someone else. I finally managed a rasp. "So Brandon fathered them all. Does that mean the affair's been going on for 15 years? Glover exhaled. "It appears so. Or at least your wife and Brandon had some arrangement starting before Theo's birth. Your mother might have known. That's what the emails suggest." I blinked. Emails. He handed me a small stack of printouts. "I obtained these from an old source. They're correspondences between Catherine and Alice. Some go way back to before you and Alice even married. They discussed, in very vague terms, how Brandon is the better long-term option and how your stability could be leveraged. It's twisted, Adam." I flipped through them. My mother's writing. "Adam doesn't need to know everything. He's safe, financially, and devoted. This way you can have Brandon's passion and Adam's stability." My heart thundered. Another line from Alice's response. "I hate lying to him, but you're right, Brandon, and I have something Adam could never understand." Sick horror settled in my gut. My own mother orchestrated it. She basically gave Alice permission to keep me as a financial provider while building a secret family with Brandon. The kids they'd passed off as mine, I felt an immediate urge to vomit. My eyes stung with tears. Glover's expression was grim. "I don't know the full logic behind it, but it sounds like Catherine believed Brandon's lineage or financial acumen was superior, while you were the safe bet. It's monstrous." Monstrous. That was the perfect word. My mind reeled. The betrayal from Alice was unimaginable, but discovering my mother had orchestrated it from the start made my blood boil. It was like my entire life had been one long, humiliating trick, and the kids, sweet, innocent kids, who had no idea they were pawns in this twisted game. I clenched my fists. "I want them to pay," I hissed through gritted teeth, tears brimming. "I want Brandon, Alice, and my mother to face the consequences for this. I can't believe—" My voice cracked. Glover nodded, voice calm but supportive. "I get it. I'd feel the same. Let me know how you want to proceed." I glanced at the email timestamps. The earliest was from about 2 months before my wedding day. Catherine was advising Alice not to break off our engagement, telling her that Brandon would always be around, that they'd work out a system. My breath rattled in my chest. Standing abruptly, I paced the small motel room, wanting to punch the dingy wall. "They used me!" I choked out. "For 15 years, they made me pay for everything, raise those kids, all while Brandon was their real father. Catherine is in on it, too. My entire marriage is a lie." Glover let me rant, eyes sympathetic. When I finally ran out of words, he spoke softly. "What's your next move?" I inhaled shakily, trying to clear the fog of rage. "I need a plan. I need a lawyer to handle a divorce, obviously. But this is bigger. My mother's finances, Brandon's infiltration. I want to protect the kids, too. They're innocent. But I can't let Alice and Brandon just walk away unscathed." He nodded. "I can help connect you to an attorney if you don't have one. And I'll keep digging for anything else that might be relevant. Financial records, property deeds, communications. The more you have, the stronger your case." I sank back into the chair, staring at the DNA results, then the emails. My mind replayed glimpses of my mother praising Brandon at our wedding reception, how Alice and Brandon always seemed to share these inside jokes. The scale of the betrayal made me feel dizzy. At last, I squared my shoulders. "I appreciate your help, Glover. Let me handle finding the right attorney. I have a few connections. Keep the evidence safe. I'll be in touch." He patted a folder. "Everything's backed up in encrypted form. You can count on me." Outside, the motel's neon sign buzzed as I walked to my car. A wave of fury and heartbreak threatened to knock me down, but I pressed forward. I had the test results, the photos, the emails. My illusions were gone, replaced by cold, damning proof. As I gripped the steering wheel, an icy determination set in. They'd lied to me for 15 years, systematically orchestrating my life. Now it was my turn to orchestrate something that would make them face the devastation they'd inflicted. I cranked the ignition, tears burning my eyes. The wind had picked up, rattling a chain-link fence nearby. It felt like the start of a storm, fitting, because I was about to unleash one. I drove home on autopilot, replaying every moment of my so-called marriage with new, bitter clarity. The knowledge that none of my 3 kids shared my DNA cut deeper than any betrayal I could imagine. And the emails between Alice and Catherine, I wanted to rip them to shreds. But they were the evidence I needed to bring them down. When I reached my driveway, I just sat there, engine idling, too numb to step inside. My phone buzzed an incoming text from Alice. "Hey, I'm finishing a shift. Late again. Sorry." I stared at the message, a wave of disgust rolling through me. Another lie. She was probably with Brandon at the beach house. I typed a curt reply. "Fine. I have work anyway." Then I shut off the engine and headed in. The kids were scattered around the living room. Ella was playing a puzzle game on her tablet, Logan was building a Lego tower, and Theo was rummaging the kitchen for snacks. I forced a smile. "Hey, guys. Everything okay?" Logan looked up. "Can you help me attach this piece, Dad?" My chest twisted at the word Dad. He had no idea that biologically I wasn't, but I couldn't let him see my turmoil. "Sure, buddy." I knelt next to him, guiding the piece in place. My thoughts screamed, I'm still his father in every way that matters. DNA be damned. But in the corner of my mind, I fumed at Alice for putting me in this position. Ella glanced over. "You look stressed, Dad. Everything all right?" I forced another reassuring grin. "Just a tough day at work, sweetie. Nothing to worry about." Inside, I was screaming 1,000 questions. Instead, I spent the next 20 minutes helping them with random tasks, trying to provide a semblance of normalcy. I didn't want them tangled in adult nightmares. Eventually, they all drifted to their rooms or to do homework. I retreated to my study. My hands trembled as I opened my desk drawer, retrieving the envelope with DNA results and copies of the damning emails. I had stashed them under some old manuals. The lines of text glared at me like a personal condemnation. "Brandon is the better choice, dear. We both know that. Oh. But Adam is stable. You'll have everything you need." That was from Catherine, dated months before our wedding. The mention of 15 years of planning in another email left me shaking with rage. I tapped my phone. I needed a legal perspective, someone who wouldn't flinch at the complexity. That brought to mind Margaret Harper, a formidable attorney I'd met once at a tech conference. She specialized in high-net-worth divorces and was reputed to be ruthless when necessary. Perfect. I pulled up her business card from my contacts file, dialing her direct line. It rang 3 times, then went to voicemail. I left a brief but urgent message. Miss Harper, my name is Adam Coleman. I need immediate legal counsel regarding marital fraud. Please call me back. The next day, I was in the office trying not to snap at my employees when my phone vibrated with a new call. Margaret Harper's number. I stepped into a private conference room to answer. Mr. Coleman? Her voice was crisp and confident. Miss Harper, thanks for calling. I need an attorney with your skill set. My wife's been having an affair, possibly for 15 years, and my mother is involved. I discovered none of my 3 kids are biologically mine. There's more, including financial deception. There was a brief pause. Then she spoke with a calm precision. That's quite a case. I'll need to gather all the details. Do you have evidence? Yes, I said grimly. DNA tests, pictures, emails, everything is verified. I want to protect my assets, ensure the children are taken care of, but also hold my wife and mother accountable. Margaret didn't miss a beat. Are you available to meet tomorrow morning? My office at 9 a.m. if that works. I agreed. After hanging up, I stared at the phone. This was it, the point of no return. Once I brought Margaret into it, the gears of legal consequences would start turning. That evening, I carefully avoided Alice, who again claimed a late shift. As for Catherine, I saw her missed call on my phone. I couldn't bring myself to talk to her, not yet. I had no idea how I'd keep my composure. She left a voicemail. Adam, sweetheart, call me back. I have a wonderful idea for the kids this summer. My stomach churned at her audacity, as if everything was normal. I stared at the phone, imagining her face if she knew what I'd uncovered. The mother I once respected was basically the puppet master behind my entire sham of a marriage. That night, I found a piece of personal solace in the kids. We ordered pizza, they did homework in the living room, and I just lingered around them. I wasn't sure how long this fragile semblance of normalcy would last once the truth came out. They'd be rocked to the core. But for now, I let them believe in the world we'd always pretended was real. Morning arrived with a crisp chill. I told Alice I had an important meeting and left early, ignoring her raised eyebrow. She barely asked questions these days, presumably because she was too busy planning more rendezvous with Brandon. My anger simmered just below the surface, but I was saving it for the right moment. Margaret Harper's office was in a sleek downtown building, the top floor offering panoramic views of Millbrook. The reception area exuded quiet, wealth-plush seating, tasteful art, fresh flowers on a glass table. A receptionist led me to Margaret's corner office, which had floor-to-ceiling windows. She was a tall woman in a sharp navy suit, silver hair pulled back into a low bun. Mr. Coleman, she said, shaking my hand firmly. Sit. Let's get started. I settled into a leather chair while she took her seat behind a minimalist desk. She folded her hands. I have some time, so walk me through everything. Be thorough. I began with a summary. The suspicious behaviors, hiring James Glover, the photographic evidence, the hospital logs, and then the DNA tests. I handed over each piece of proof as I spoke. Margaret examined them one by one, her expression neutral but focused. When I finished, she let out a small breath. This is, quite frankly, one of the most severe marital deceptions I've ever seen. You have grounds for divorce, obviously. But it goes beyond that. There's fraud, potential financial manipulation, and your mother's involvement is especially unique. Her measured tone gave me some comfort. I need to protect my assets, I said firmly. I can't let Alice and Brandon walk away with half my company. Also, the kids are innocent. I still love them, no matter what the DNA says. They shouldn't suffer more than they have to. Margaret nodded. We can set up trust funds to secure the children's future. That way they receive support without Alice or Brandon accessing it. We'll move your personal and business assets in a way that's legally sound but difficult for them to claim. That means reorganizing your holdings, possibly transferring ownership to protective structures. She began listing potential strategies: blind trusts, shell corporations, reassigning shares of my software company. It felt surreal, but I listened intently. This was the blueprint for dismantling the illusions and building a fortress around what was rightfully mine. What about my mother's involvement? I asked. She has money too, but I don't want her interfering with my children or influencing their finances. Margaret's lip twitched. She has no paternal or legal claim over them, but if she's been orchestrating this from the shadows, we can expose that in court if necessary. Her finances are separate, but we can show her role in the affair as part of the overall deception. That might reduce any claim she tries to make regarding the children's upbringing. Just hearing it framed in legal terms gave me a grim satisfaction. Catherine might think she's above consequences, but there were ways to bring her to account. We discussed the next steps in detail: Margaret's retainer, the timeline, the importance of secrecy. She reiterated that if Alice or Catherine got wind of my plan too soon, they might move or hide assets. I thanked Margaret, her confidence fueling my resolve. "You'll receive official documents soon," she said as I stood to leave. "In the meantime, keep an eye on your wife's movements, but act like nothing's changed. Don't let them suspect you know anything." I gave a hollow laugh. "I've been doing that for weeks." She nodded sympathetically. "I know it's tough, but if you want the upper hand, you have to stay calm and hidden. I'll coordinate with your PI for any further evidence we need." Later that day, I sat in my car outside a sandwich shop, thinking about how bizarre my life had become. I was orchestrating a multi-layered legal strategy to protect myself from my own wife and mother who'd conspired against me for over a decade. My phone buzzed with a text from Glover. "Check your email. Sent more docs." I opened my laptop, scanning the email attachments. Glover had found more references to suspicious property transactions. It looked like Catherine and Brandon might have some interwoven finances. Possibly she'd funded him in ways that disguised the paper trail. The puzzle was massive, but with Glover and Margaret's help, I was starting to see the edges. By evening, I'd hashed out the next phase with Glover over a short phone call. My plan was to finalize asset protection, then confront them. But not yet. Not until everything was locked. For the time being, I had to keep living my life as though I hadn't discovered their monstrous secret. Alice came home around 10 that night, claiming another staff crisis. I pretended to be half asleep on the couch. She sat next to me, smelling faintly of some cologne that wasn't mine, probably Brandon's. I resisted the urge to recoil. "You okay?" she asked in a soft tone. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe she was just testing if I suspected. "You've been quiet lately." I faked a yawn. "Just busy at work. I'm fine." I turned away, effectively ending the conversation. My fury simmered, but I locked it down. In bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with Margaret's plan. We'd set up trust funds for each child, unreachable by Alice or Brandon. We'd restructure my company so a large chunk of it was shielded. And we'd gather every last shred of evidence to ensure an airtight case. This was war, and they had no clue I was assembling an army of legal and financial experts behind the scenes. My heartbreak had hardened into something dangerously controlled. Part of me worried I'd lose my soul in the process, but another part whispered, "They destroyed my trust, my identity as a father. They deserve whatever's coming." I listened to Alice's soft breathing and wondered if she was dreaming of Brandon. The bed felt like a battleground. I silently vowed that soon I'd be the one dropping bombs. They'd regret every lie told, every manipulative plan. Catherine, Brandon, Alice, none of them would escape the consequences. I spent the next few days orchestrating the biggest ruse of my life, pretending everything was normal. In the mornings, I kissed Alice's cheek, acted cheerful with the kids, and joked around about everyday stuff. At work, I told Rachel Wu and my team that I was exploring new business structures for future expansion. They didn't know I was actually burying assets to protect them from a soon-to-be nasty divorce. One afternoon, I sat in Margaret Harper's sleek office again, this time accompanied by a calm-faced man named Gavin O'Neill, introduced as a financial strategist. He wore a conservative suit and spoke with measured confidence. Margaret explained, "Gavin specializes in restructuring high-value assets. He's worked on complex divorces before. We'll rely on his expertise to ensure your company and personal wealth are shielded." Gavin nodded. "Mr. Coleman, I understand you own a majority stake in your software enterprise. We'll create a trust or possibly multiple shell entities that place ownership under legally distinct umbrellas. That way, if your wife's legal counsel tries to claim half, They'll be stymied by the layers. I breathed in slowly, absorbing the practicality of it all. It felt surreal discussing these elaborate corporate acrobatics. And the kids' trust funds? Margaret tapped a file. We can set them up so each child is guaranteed education and basic living expenses, but Alice nor Brandon can touch those funds. Any attempt they make will be legally barred. My chest tightened at the thought of providing for the kids while simultaneously gutting Alice's ability to exploit me. That's exactly what I want, I said quietly. They shouldn't pay for their mother's sins. Margaret offered a slight, sympathetic smile. They won't. We'll structure it so once they're adults, they can access the funds for college or beyond. She glanced at Gavin. We'll finalize details in the next couple of weeks. For now, Mr. Coleman, keep playing the role. If your wife gets wind of this, she'll lawyer up quickly and we'll lose the element of surprise. I steeled myself. I understand. I can keep it together. After the meeting, I headed back to my office, mind buzzing with new knowledge about asset transfers, blind trusts, and shell companies. My phone dinged a text from Glover. Update? Found more emails referencing a public reveal? Possibly Catherine or Brandon planning something? Will forward ASAP. My blood ran cold. A public reveal from their side? What on earth did that mean? Were they planning to announce something? Maybe they were going to blindside me with a divorce or claim partial ownership in my company. I texted back, forward everything, meeting soon. Later that evening, I reviewed the forwarded messages from Glover. They were partial email snippets between Catherine and Brandon, referencing a next step around the holidays and ensuring Adam remains in the dark. One line read, "He'll be so busy with year-end that we can finalize the arrangement." Another, "Yes, let's keep it discreet until we're ready." I wanted to smash my keyboard. They were clearly planning to blindside me at some upcoming gathering. But what arrangement? Some twisted plan to force me out of my own life? I pictured them unveiling the news that the kids weren't mine, or that they'd co-financed my own mother's estate. The arrogance was breathtaking. But ironically, it fit perfectly with the plan Margaret, Gavin, and I had begun forging. I'd strike first, before they even realized I was onto them. The idea of exposing them publicly filled me with a dark sense of satisfaction. If they wanted a public reveal, they'd get one, but not how they expected. The next week became a whirlwind of covert activity. I met Gavin in a nondescript office suite he'd rented under a shell company name. We signed reams of paperwork transferring my majority stake to a protected trust, with me as beneficiary but not direct owner, legally separating me from immediate claims. We established the kids' trust funds, selecting an independent trustee who reported only to me. I felt simultaneously empowered and exhausted. My life was in chaos, yet I was forging a path to protect what mattered. Each night, I came home to a living, breathing lie. Alice would sometimes greet me with a rough day, and I'd force a nod, wanting to spit accusations in her face. But I kept my cool. At one point, I caught myself studying the family portraits in the hallway. The photos felt like a museum exhibit of illusions. Happy dad, smiling mom, adorable kids. If only the glass frames could shatter and reveal the truth beneath. Soon, I told myself, soon. Another meeting with Margaret sealed the timeline. "We'll be ready in a matter of weeks, Mr. Coleman," she said. "Once everything is set, you can reveal what you know on your own terms. After that, we'll file for divorce and present the evidence. They won't know what hit them." Her matter-of-fact tone was like a cold wind bracing, but exactly what I needed. She handed me a folder containing draft documents labeled Dissolution of Marriage. My name and Alice's name in bold letters at the top. My stomach twisted seeing it in black and white, but I swallowed the ache. Margaret continued, "I assume you'll want a dramatic effect. We can do a discreet filing, or we can deliver the papers in a way that sends a message." I let out a slow breath. They've lied to me for 15 years. My mother orchestrated it. Honestly, I don't just want a quiet exit. I want them exposed, humiliated. Margaret nodded. "Understood. We'll finalize that approach once the asset transfers are done and you confirm the best time." I pictured them, smug in their belief that I was clueless. The idea of a grand public exposure brought me a grim sense of justice, but I also felt a pang of sorrow for the children's sake. They'd be collateral damage in any public scandal. I decided I'd handle it as carefully as possible while still ensuring Alice, Brandon, and Catherine got what they deserved. Meanwhile, I kept Glover updated on my progress. He in turn let me know that Brandon had been meeting with my mother more frequently, often at a high-end restaurant called the Gilded Swan. Glover snagged some photos of them laughing over what looked like celebratory drinks. My anger flared at the sight of Catherine raising a glass, presumably toasting their deception. Some nights I'd lie awake, imagining confronting them in that fancy restaurant, brandishing the DNA tests, the emails, spitting accusations until they cowered. But Margaret advised caution. A well-timed public reveal would do more damage than a random outburst. Alice, in the meantime, carried on her charade. She occasionally complained about how overworked she was, threw in references to hospital politics, and even invited me to come by the hospital cafeteria sometime. The nerve of it. I'd nod vaguely, as if I believed she was some tireless saint. Inside, I seethed. One evening, she casually mentioned how Catherine wanted us all to gather for a holiday meal in a few weeks. My stomach did a flip. That might be the perfect venue to stage my own unveiling. A wave of excitement tinged with dread coursed through me. I told her, sure, let's do it, and forced a pleasant smile. She blinked like she wasn't expecting me to agree. Great. Mom said we'll plan something special. Sounds perfect, I murmured, mind already racing with ideas. This could be it. If they were planning a smug reveal, I'd turn the tables. I wasn't sure how I'd keep a straight face until then, but the thought of seeing them blindsided fueled me. A few days later, Margaret and Gavin confirmed the final steps. We had locked down my finances, transferred key assets, and established bulletproof trusts for the kids. I felt a rush of relief knowing that no matter how badly Alice and Brandon tried to ruin me, they'd fail. The children would be safe from any financial fallout. Late that afternoon, Margaret called me. We've got the structure in place, Adam. The ball is in your court. Let me know when you want to pull the trigger on the divorce filing and official legal action. We can keep everything sealed until the moment you say go. I thanked her, heart thumping. I'll let you know soon. There's a holiday dinner in the works. Might be the ideal time to do this. My voice came out low, almost dangerous. She didn't flinch. We'll be ready. I hung up, a grim smile forming on my lips. The plan was real now, an unstoppable chain of events. They'd never see it coming. I'd remain cordial and unsuspecting on the surface, while inside me burned the knowledge of every betrayal, and soon I would hold all the cards. That night, I was more relaxed around Alice than I'd been in weeks. I almost scared myself with how easily I slipped into a facade of normalcy, joking about random things with the kids and complimenting her cooking. Maybe she thought I'd finally accepted the late shifts explanation. She had no clue of the hurricane I was preparing to unleash. Before bed, I stepped into my office and locked the door. I opened a hidden safe where I'd placed the key documents: DNA results, photos, emails, trust agreements, preliminary divorce papers. Staring at them, I felt a surge of anger, but also a sense of righteous purpose. This was my arsenal, a collection of truths that would devastate 3 people who deserved it. I carefully put them back, my hand shaking slightly from adrenaline. Then I turned off the light. Lying in bed next to Alice, I listened to her breathe. The strangest part was how calm I felt now that I had a plan. The heartbreak was still there, but it was tempered by a fierce resolve. In the darkness, I vowed, they used me for 15 years. They took my fatherhood, my trust. They built an entire lie around me. Now I'll show them exactly what it means to cross someone who's done being a victim. And with that silent promise, I finally drifted off. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, certain of what I had to do. I never thought I'd become so skilled at living a double life. But these days, it feels like every conversation, every routine in our house is part of a show I'm putting on for my wife and mother, pretending I'm still the clueless husband and dutiful son they once manipulated so easily. Early in the morning, I find myself in the kitchen pouring coffee into my favorite mug, while Alice bustles around making lunches for Theo, Ella, and Logan. She moves with a kind of forced cheer, humming an off-key tune. I suspect she's doing it to ward off any suspicion that she's tired from her real nighttime activities. But the truth is, she could walk in wearing Brandon Myers' jacket and I wouldn't blink. My act is as polished as hers. "Morning, babe," I say lightly, stepping toward her and planting a soft kiss on her cheek. The coffee in my hand doesn't shake, and my voice doesn't tremble. I've become a master at controlling every detail. She glances up, eyes flicking across my face. "Hey, hun, you're in a good mood." "Busy schedule at the office." I lie easily. "But you know me, I like staying productive." She offers me a small smile. "Same here. I'm covering a shift this evening at the hospital." Another lie. We both know it, but neither of us flinches. The kids filter in, half asleep, rummaging for cereal or toast. Theo complains about a test. Ella whines about an upcoming science fair, and Logan perks up at the promise of extra screen time after he finishes his homework. None of them suspect the storm about to hit their family. By 8 o'clock, the house is empty except for me. I linger, flipping open my laptop on the kitchen table. An email from Gavin O'Neill pings my inbox another update about the asset transfers. We've set up multiple shell corporations and re-registered significant parts of my software business under a trust that only I control. Alice or Brandon can't even hope to touch it if they try to claim marital assets. I log into a private portal Gavin set up, scanning the legal documents. There are lines upon lines of financial jargon detailing ownership structures, beneficial interests, and trustee responsibilities. Every piece is part of my fortress. Reading them, I feel a grim satisfaction. 15 years they spent deceiving me, and now they have no idea I've turned the tables so completely. Once I confirm the latest round of sign-offs, I drive to the office. As soon as I enter, Rachel Wu, my project manager, flags me down with a grin. "Hey, Adam. Perfect timing. We just landed a new client, some big finance firm. They want custom solutions for automating their compliance processes." I force a broad smile. "That's great, Rachel. Good work." In reality, my mind is a million miles away. But I've learned to juggle, to be present enough at work to keep the company running, while devoting most of my mental energy to the elaborate revenge I'm crafting. We discuss a short timeline and resource needs. I promise to loop back with approvals. She leaves my office, satisfied I'm engaged. Mid-afternoon, I slip into an empty conference room to call Margaret Harper. She answers on the second ring. "Adam, good to hear from you. How's everything progressing?" "Smoothly," I say, keeping my voice low. "Gavin's finishing some final asset transfers. I'll have everything locked down soon. Then we move to the next phase." "Excellent," she replies, and I can almost hear the steely smile in her voice. "Have you decided on a date for the reveal, or do you need more time?" I pause, remembering the conversation I overheard about a holiday gathering. My mother, Catherine, has been dropping hints about hosting some kind of grand dinner soon, probably around Thanksgiving. She's texted me a few times, talking about how the whole family should celebrate together, including distant relatives and some of my business associates. The irony is thick enough to choke on. "Yes," I tell Margaret. "They're planning a Thanksgiving dinner in a couple of weeks. I think that's our moment." "Perfect," Margaret says. "We'll have the divorce papers ready to serve. Once you do your reveal, I'll file them electronically. That'll seal the deal." I exhale. My heart thumps at the thought of it standing in front of friends, extended family, maybe even some local connections, calmly distributing the evidence of Alice's affair, the DNA tests, Catherine's incriminating emails. It'll be catastrophic, and that's exactly what I want. "All right, we're set then," I say quietly. She promises to keep me updated on the legal side and ends the call. I lean back in the conference chair, adrenaline humming in my veins. Soon. That evening, I get home a bit later than usual, carrying Thai takeout. The kids greet me, rummaging through the bags for their favorites. Alice is nowhere to be seen, so I ask casually, "Where's Mom?" Ella shrugs. "She said she'd be back later. Work stuff." I force a neutral expression. "Right, of course." My blood boils, but I keep my mask on. A part of me is thankful she's gone. It gives me more room to breathe and finalize some details. After dinner, I tuck Logan into bed. He clings to my hand. "Dad, can we go to the park this weekend?" My throat tightens. He's 9, and I've been his father in every sense but biological. "Sure, buddy," I say softly, brushing his hair back. "We'll do that." In the hallway, I pause at the family portraits. For a second, I feel a pang of sadness at how drastically life is about to change for them. But the memory of Alice's betrayal steals my resolve. They used me. They made me raise children that aren't mine, all while laughing behind my back. No, compassion will have to wait. I retreat to my study and open my laptop to confirm the trust fund structures for each child. Theo's covers his high school expenses and future college tuition. Ella's ensures she can pursue her interests without fear of financial sabotage. Logan's sets him up so he's never lacking, even if the scandal breaks him psychologically. I love these kids, no matter what. I won't let them suffer. An incoming text from Catherine lights my phone. Adam, dear, we need to finalize our Thanksgiving guest list. Let's chat soon. XOXO. I grimace, the gall of that woman, to sign off with affectionate kisses. But I respond politely, Sure, Mom, let's talk tomorrow. She has no idea that day will be her undoing. That's the only thought that brings me any calm as I lock up my study for the night. The next morning, I swing by a local coffee shop before work. I keep an eye on the crowd, half expecting to see Catherine or Brandon appear, but they don't. Good. I need some space to strategize. Over a cappuccino, I scroll through an email from James Glover, my private investigator. He's tying up some loose ends, additional phone logs confirming that Alice and Brandon speak multiple times a day. Receipts that place Brandon's Mercedes near the beach house on nights Alice claims to be on call at the hospital. A suspicious email chain between Catherine and Brandon discussing final touches for the holiday dinner. The dinner that will become the stage for my revenge. I forward the data to Margaret, labeling it Exhibit E Holiday Arrangements. She'll incorporate it into the legal arsenal. They won't see it coming. At the office, I wrap up tasks quickly. My employees notice me finishing assignments in record time, but I pass it off as an end-of-year productivity spurt. Rachel knocks on my door around noon, looking slightly concerned. Adam, she says, I know you're pushing yourself. If you need to take some days off, we can handle things. I give a short laugh. Nah, I'm just clearing my plate. Don't worry, I'm fine. She doesn't look convinced, but she leaves me alone. Once she's gone, I stare at my closed door, heart pounding. A few more weeks of this, and the weight might crush me. But the payoff will be worth it. That evening, Alice breezes in carrying a grocery bag and wearing a bright smile. Hey, she chirps, as if she's the perfect wife returning from an ordinary shopping trip. Hey, I reply calmly. Kids already ate. There's leftover pasta if you're hungry. She kisses my cheek, which makes my skin crawl. Thanks, hun. I'm gonna shower first. Then she disappears upstairs. I wonder if she's washing off Brandon's scent. The thought fuels my anger, but I swallow it down. The next day is Saturday, and Catherine invites me over to discuss the Thanksgiving event. She insists we do it at her place, presumably to keep me from spotting any suspicious documents or hearing weird phone calls. I arrive mid-morning, greeted by her airy smile. Adam, darling, come in. She ushers me to the living room, which is decorated with tasteful autumn wreaths and plush furniture that probably cost more than my first car. Catherine sits me down, firing off questions about centerpieces, table arrangements, who we should invite. She's practically giddy, speaking about it as though it's going to be the social highlight of Millbrook. I'm thinking we invite a few of Brandon's influential clients, she says lightly. Along with your business associates, of course. My jaw clenches, but I nod as though it's perfectly normal. Sure, Mom, that sounds great. Let's make it a big deal, right? She beams, clearly satisfied. Oh yes, it'll be a wonderful way for the entire family to come together. After all, we're so close. Her tone drips with irony she doesn't even realize. She's proud of how close we are while concealing a 15-year betrayal. As we finalize details, my phone buzzes. A text from Margaret. All documents ready? Need final date time for filing. I type back under the table. Thanksgiving dinner at 7 p.m. Plan on 8 p.m. for the official move. I slip the phone away. Catherine notices but doesn't comment. Maybe she thinks it's just me dealing with normal business. Oh, if only she knew. Before I leave, she hugs me goodbye. The hug is warm, maternal, and it makes my stomach churn, thinking how she used that same warmth to manipulate me. I mumble a goodbye and drive off, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Soon, Catherine. Soon you'll know how it feels to watch your world disintegrate. Back home, the kids are lounging in the living room, the TV buzzing with some cartoon. I join them, forcing a relaxed demeanor. My mind keeps jumping to the holiday dinner. I imagine the scene, everyone in nice clothes, laughter filling the dining room, then me stepping up to say a few words. In my fantasies, the hush is immediate as I pass out envelopes containing DNA results, photos, and emails. I can almost taste the shock in the air. I glance at the kids, feeling a stab of guilt. There'll be collateral damage in the spectacle, but they deserve the truth. And maybe it's better they find out in the open, where everything is undeniable. If I handle it right, maybe the extended family can rally around them. I'll protect them financially with the trust funds. It's not perfect, but it's the best I can do in a world that's already shattered. A sudden ring on the doorbell interrupts my thoughts. Opening the door, I find Brandon Myers himself, wearing a polite smile. My stomach knots, but I keep a straight face. "Adam," Brandon says, offering a friendly wave. "Is Alice home? She asked me to pick up some documents for Catherine, I believe." I fight the urge to slam the door in his face. Instead, I step aside. "She's upstairs. Let me get her." My voice is calm, even cordial. Years of deception have trained me well. Inside, Brandon stands awkwardly in the foyer. The kids keep watching TV, oblivious to the man who's actually their biological father. The irony is suffocating. I head upstairs, find Alice in the bedroom, rummaging for a file in her nightstand drawer. "Brandon's here," I say, voice level. "He said you have something for him?" She jolts, dropping a manila folder, then tries to cover her surprise with a forced laugh. "Right. Catherine needed these property forms back." She shoves the folder into her purse. "I'll just give them to him." We walk downstairs together. My heart thrums as I watch their subtle glances, the unspoken intimacy. But I manage a friendly nod when Brandon turns toward me. "Thanks, Adam," he says lightly. "We'll just chat outside for a sec." "No problem," I answer, stepping aside so they can pass. They walk out together, exchanging low voices on the porch. I close my eyes, inhaling slowly, telling myself not to blow the plan. In a matter of weeks, these two will see a reckoning. After a few minutes, Brandon heads to his car with a casual wave in my direction. Alice returns inside, face slightly flushed. "He just needed my signature," she lies. I shrug as if I don't care. "Makes sense. I'll go back to the kids." She nods, looking relieved I haven't questioned her further. Little does she know, I've questioned everything about her for months now. In a sense, we're both living illusions. She pretends I'm ignorant while I pretend I'm still under her spell. The difference is, I have an endgame. That night, I slip quietly into my study after everyone's asleep. I pull out a binder labeled T-Day Plan. It's full of notes, timelines, details from Glover and Margaret. I read over them one last time, feeling a heady mixture of nerves and anticipation. This has to be flawless. It will be the most important performance of my life. I close the binder, pressing it against my chest. The walls of my study feel like they're closing in, thick with the tension of what's coming. I remind myself, you're doing this for justice. They stole 15 years of your life, fatherhood, trust. They deserve every ounce of destruction coming their way. Leaning back in my chair, I allow myself a small, humorless grin. The stage is set. I've lined up the finances, the evidence, the legal backing. Now it's only a matter of counting down the days until the perfect moment to let them all burn. And I won't lose a wink of sleep over it. There's a saying that the tension before a storm can be more agonizing than the storm itself. I feel that every day now, like the air around me is charged with electricity, just waiting for a spark. While I continue my act of normalcy, the subtle clues and undercurrents around the house get sharper like a knife waiting to slice through the facade. A week before Thanksgiving, I'm finishing some code at my home office desk when I sense Alice behind me. She's been drifting around more than usual, as if trying to pick up on my mood. "Hey," she says softly. "You've been working here at home a lot lately. Everything all right at the office?" I turn my chair, offering a mild smile. "All good, just wanted some quiet away from the daily hustle there." She searches my face. "Really? You seem different." My pulse kicks up, but I maintain a bored expression. "I'm fine. Maybe just a little stressed about finances. It's year-end, big tax stuff, you know how it is." Her eyes flicker with something like guilt or worry. If you need to talk, I'm here. The irony almost chokes me, but I force a chuckle. Thanks, hun. I appreciate that. Her face softens, and she leaves me alone. If she only knew how meticulously I'm safeguarding the finances from her clutches. That afternoon, Catherine phones me. Adam, dear, she says brightly, I just wanted to confirm we're all set for Thanksgiving. I'm finalizing the menu, and Brandon's kindly offered to help with the wine selection. Isn't he thoughtful? My hand tightens around the phone. Yes, very thoughtful, I reply, forcing a pleasant tone. Anything else I can help with? Catherine's voice turns a bit conspiratorial. Well, I might need you to arrive early to help set up some decorations. You know how I like the house to look perfect. I close my eyes, picturing her smug smile. Sure, Mom. Whatever you need. We make small talk for a few more minutes, and I notice she never once asks about my well-being, just how the event can look good, who else we're inviting. She hints that she's asked a few local friends of Brandon's to come. Probably she wants to show him off, thinking I'm oblivious. It's sickening. After we hang up, I stare out the window at the bare trees in the yard. The air is chilly, a sign winter's near. Fitting, because I feel ice in my veins these days. I tap out a quick message to Margaret. Confirmed. I'll be at Catherine's house early on Thanksgiving. The reveal starts at 7 p.m. You can file as planned around 8. She replies within minutes. Understood. Good luck. It's surreal finalizing the schedule for my own personal apocalypse, but I welcome the approaching date like a soldier anticipating battle. In the days leading up to the event, Alice becomes visibly uneasy around me. She tries to re-engage in small, affectionate gestures, rubbing my shoulders while I watch TV, bringing me coffee in the morning. Maybe she senses my distance, or she's worried I might be suspecting something. I let her fuss over me, never giving her a reason to doubt my performance. One evening, she corners me in the living room while the kids are off in their rooms. Adam, she starts, voice trembling slightly. I feel like we haven't connected in a while. Is there something wrong between us? I swallow back the venom I want to spew. Instead, I sigh and pat the cushion beside me. Work's just been stressful, Alice. You know I love you. The lie tastes bitter. Her eyes well up with relief. I love you too. She leans in for a quick hug. Every muscle in my body tenses, but I pat her back as if reassuring her. When she pulls away, she smiles, tears glistening. Well, maybe after Thanksgiving we can have a short getaway? Just you and me? The audacity stuns me. Sounds great, I lie smoothly. Let's see how the schedule is. She beams, clearly desperate for normalcy. I watch her walk away, feeling my heart pound with anger. A getaway with the woman who systematically lied to me for half my adult life? The nerve is unbelievable. But it'll make her downfall that much more jarring. Behind the scenes, I finalize every detail with Glover and Margaret. Glover has compiled neat packets of evidence, DNA results, phone logs, incriminating photos, even select emails from Catherine. Margaret has the divorce papers ready, along with a short statement that details the grounds. Infidelity, fraud, emotional distress, the works. I plan to distribute the packets in an envelope to each key person at the dinner, like handing out a twisted party favor. The mental image of them opening those envelopes and collectively realizing what's happened sends a thrill through me. Cruel, maybe, but they deserve no mercy. A few days before Thanksgiving, Brandon stops by the house again when Alice isn't home. I'm alone in the living room watching a news channel with the volume low when I hear the knock. Opening the door, I find him standing there, looking a bit uneasy. Adam, he says, clearing his throat. Catherine mentioned I should drop off a few things for the dinner. She said you might want to check them first. I arch a brow. She did, huh? Sure, come in. He enters, carrying a small box that presumably has fancy place cards or some decorative knickknacks. He sets it down. We both stand there in awkward silence for a heartbeat. Then Brandon forces a grin. How's life? Heard your company's doing well. I nod curtly. It is. We just expanded into new territories. My tone is clipped, but not enough to arouse suspicion. That's great. he says, shoving his hands into his pockets. I notice he's wearing an expensive watch probably paid for with the same finances he's been funneling from my mother. My jaw tightens. I break the tension by gesturing at the box. So what's in there? He lifts the lid, showing me an assortment of table decorations, little turkey motifs, autumn leaves, some cloth napkins, all to create that picture-perfect holiday vibe. Just stuff for the dinner. Right, I say. Well, thanks for dropping it off. I'm sure Catherine will love that everything's in order. Brandon nods, glancing around as if expecting Alice to appear. So, is Alice around? No, I reply evenly. She's working a shift. The old lie. My anger simmers, but I keep my face neutral. You can leave the box here. I'll make sure it gets to Mom's place before Thanksgiving. He stands there a moment longer, likely searching for any sign of suspicion in me. Finally, he offers a weak smile. All right. See you soon, Adam. Then he leaves, shutting the door behind him. I exhale a long, shaky breath. My hands are clenched so hard my nails dig into my palms. In less than a week, I'll expose him and everything he's done. Let him enjoy these final moments of faux normalcy. On Thanksgiving morning, I rise before dawn. The house is peaceful, the kids still asleep, and Alice also lying in bed, eyes closed. I slip into my office, rechecking my folder of evidence. Each item is in place, labeled. I can almost sense Glover's methodical hand in organizing them. Thank God for his thoroughness. A short text from Margaret reads, "Today's the day. Good luck. I'll be on standby." My pulse quickens. This is it. No turning back. At breakfast, the kids chatter excitedly about how they'll get to see extended family. They're in that sweet, innocent bubble. Meanwhile, Alice floats around, cooking last-minute dishes, telling them how we'll head to Catherine's around mid-afternoon to help with setup. She acts the perfect hostess, planning a lovely family holiday. Little does she know it'll become a day none of us will forget. By noon, I load my car with the sides Alice prepared and a few items Catherine insisted we bring. Alice corrals the kids, double-checking they're all dressed nicely, Theo in slacks and a button-up, Ella wearing a floral dress, Logan in khakis and a sweater. They look adorable, the picture of a wholesome family. My chest aches with the knowledge that everything is about to change. We drive to Catherine's house, a large colonial-style place that's tastefully decorated with wreaths, candles, and string lights. Catherine greets us in the foyer, beaming as she kisses the kids and gushes about how grown they look. My stomach churns at her phony warmth. She leads us into the living room, which is already buzzing with a handful of guests. I spot a few neighbors, some of Catherine's well-heeled friends, even a couple of my own business associates who must have gotten invited through Catherine's meddling. Among them is Ethan Rockwell, a real estate mogul I've done deals with. He nods politely when he sees me. Alice sets down a casserole dish in the kitchen, chatting with an older woman about recipes. I slip off to a side hallway, retrieving the packet of envelopes from my coat pocket. I stash them discreetly under a table draped with a festive cloth. My heart pounds. The final act is coming soon. Late afternoon turns into early evening. The crowd swells to about 25 people. Catherine floats among them, introducing Brandon to some folks as her trusted financial advisor. He's wearing a confident smile, shaking hands. Meanwhile, I keep a low profile, exchanging polite small talk, but mostly observing. Alice helps carry trays of appetizers, forcing a bright grin whenever I catch her eye. She probably thinks she's fooling me. Catherine eventually rings a small bell to gather everyone's attention in the living room. "Dinner will be served soon," she announces, voice filled with hostess pride. "But first, I want to say how thankful I am to have all of you here, friends, colleagues, and especially family." She casts a fond glance at me and Alice, then at Brandon. It's sickening. People clap politely. She invites me to say a few words, maybe because I'm her son, or maybe because she wants me to publicly praise her and Brandon. I step forward, offering a neutral smile. "Thank you, Mom," I begin, scanning the room. My eyes drift over Alice, who stands near the fireplace with her hands clasped, and Brandon next to Catherine looking smug. "I just want to echo your sentiment. I'm also grateful for family and the bonds we share." My voice is calm, but inside I'm shaking with adrenaline. In fact, I continue, I've prepared a little something to show how much I appreciate everyone. I've got envelopes, sort of a personal gift for a few of you. If you don't mind, I'd like to hand them out before we sit down for dinner. A few curious murmurs ripple through the guests. Catherine raises her eyebrows, glancing at Brandon. Alice tilts her head, unsure. Perfect. Stepping to the hallway table, I retrieve the neatly stacked envelopes. My heart hammers. Mom, Alice, Brandon, I say, handing each of them an envelope. Then I pass out more envelopes to key guests, some of my business associates and a couple of Catherine's close friends. Each envelope is labeled with a name. Alice frowns, turning the small packet over in her hands. Brandon looks downright perplexed. Catherine forces a smile, suspecting some surprise. The guests open them, leafing through the contents. DNA test results, photos of Alice's car next to Brandon's Mercedes, copies of those vile emails. And a short summary I've written, 15 years of betrayal. Gasps fill the room. A few people drop their pages in horror. Catherine's eyes go wide, face draining of color. Alice flips through the documents, her cheeks flushing bright red. Brandon's confident grin vanishes, replaced by confusion and then dawning terror. My business associate, Ethan, reads the DNA results with parted lips, slowly realizing the gravity of what he's holding. I wait, letting the shock settle like an earthquake. Then I clear my throat. I thought everyone should know the truth about my wife's relationship with Brandon Myers and how my mother, Catherine Coleman, helped them sustain it. My voice shakes slightly, but I push on. They deceived me for over a decade, passing off children that aren't biologically mine, manipulating my entire life. Alice's eyes fill with tears, and she shakes her head, trying to speak, but no sound emerges. Brandon's face contorts with anger and fear. Catherine looks like she might collapse, gripping the back of a chair. Around us, stunned guests murmur in disbelief. A hush falls, broken only by a few scattered gasps. I feel a wave of grim satisfaction. This is the moment I've orchestrated. They're all caught in the spotlight, secrets stripped bare for everyone to see. Next, I pull out a manila folder. I also want you to know that I'm done, I say, voice steadier now. I filed for divorce from Alice, effective immediately. I hold up the official-looking papers. Margaret Harper, my attorney, is submitting them electronically right now. Alice's knees buckle. She stares at me, tears streaking her cheeks. Brandon tries to stammer a denial, but the photos speak for themselves. Catherine's lips tremble. She whispers, Adam, please. I silence her with a raised hand. No. You have nothing to say that I want to hear. My gaze sweeps across the room. To the rest of you, I'm sorry to lay this on you in such a public way, but sometimes the truth needs an audience. The tension is so thick I can feel it pressing on my chest. A few guests recoil from Catherine and Brandon as if their betrayal is contagious. A distant cousin of mine shakes her head, tears in her eyes. Business associates glance at each other, clearly shocked by the scandal swirling around me. I exhale slowly, then deliver the final words. Enjoy the rest of your evening if you can, I say, voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, and like I said, I've filed for divorce. Alice, Brandon, Mom, I'm sure you'll have plenty to discuss. With that, I let the hush fill the space. My heart races, but a part of me feels lighter than I have in years. I've revealed everything. Now I just have to face the immediate aftermath before I can vanish from this twisted world. The silence in the room is so profound I can practically hear hearts pounding. People stand frozen, envelopes clutched in their hands, eyes riveted on me. The chandelier overhead casts bright reflections on their stunned faces. For a moment, no one speaks, as if we're all in a suspended moment of shock. Then it begins. A low gasp from the far corner, a rustle of papers as someone drops their envelope. Murmurs rise, swirling like a frantic wind. Brandon is the first to react verbally, stepping forward with an incredulous scowl. What the hell is this, Adam? He snarls. He clutches the photos in one hand. The DNA results in another. Are you insane? A small bubble of bitter laughter escapes my lips. Insane? No, just informed. And done playing your game. Alice staggers toward me, tears streaking her mascara. Adam, please, let me explain. Her voice is raw, but I cut her off with a raised palm. Explain what? I snap. That you've been lying for 15 years? That every time you said you were working at the hospital, you were actually sneaking off with Brandon? Or that our kids— My voice falters. I swallow hard, pressing on. That our kids aren't even mine, biologically? She sobs, face crumpling. I never meant for it to go this far. It was complicated. I let out a cold laugh, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. That's your excuse? It was complicated? I gave you everything, Alice. Catherine, standing near the sofa, tries to steady herself. Her eyes flick to the pages in her envelope, her own emails, her complicity spelled out in black and white. She lifts her gaze, voice trembling. Adam, sweetheart, we can talk about this privately. Please don't do this in front of— Don't call me sweetheart, I hiss, my anger flaring. You orchestrated this from the beginning. Those emails show you pushing Alice and Brandon together, praising him while calling me a stable fallback. You even gave them the beach house as their rendezvous spot. You destroyed my marriage, my fatherhood, for what? Because you decided Brandon was a better match? You had no right. Her cheeks pale. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? I bark, voice cracking. By letting me raise children that aren't mine? By letting me believe I had a loyal wife when all along you were encouraging her to cheat? I glance around the room, noticing the horrified expressions of family friends, acquaintances. Let them see. Let them witness the monstrous truth. Brandon strides closer, voice low with anger. You want to do this now? Fine. You were never really around, Adam. Alice needed someone who understood her needs. Maybe if you'd paid attention, rage surges in my chest. Shut up. You don't get to rewrite history to make yourself the hero. I gesture at the printed emails. There's the proof of your involvement, your fatherhood, all the times you used my mother's money to prop yourself up. You're a liar and a parasite. He opens his mouth as if to retort, but the hush of the crowd stops him. Many of them are staring at him with disgust. My business associate, Ethan, shoots him a glare that speaks volumes. Brandon's face grows red. Alice tries again to approach me, tears glistening. Adam, I'm so sorry. Her voice trembles. We never intended to hurt you. Stop it, I manage, my throat tight. You don't get to stand here crying about how sorry you are. You had 15 years to come clean. You never did. Instead, you told me lies night after night. I have no sympathy left for you. She crumples, letting out a soft sob. Someone from the crowd steps forward, a distant relative, placing a hand on her shoulder. Catherine clutches the back of the sofa, tears in her eyes, but I know they're not from remorse for me. They're tears of shock at being exposed. I hold up the divorce papers. For everyone's information, I announce, voice loud enough to carry through the living room. I'm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery and fraud. Alice, I've already arranged everything. Our assets are locked. You'll find you can't touch them. I can see a flicker of horror in her eyes. Catherine tries to speak up, voice quavering. Adam, please, we can fix this. We're family. Don't throw away everything. I slam my hand on a nearby table, causing a few people to jump. Family? Don't dare use that word with me. You manipulated me, used me as a bank account while letting Brandon father 3 children under my nose. This is on you. Both of you. Silence stretches, thick and suffocating. My mother's chest heaves, face streaked with tears. Brandon stands rigid, fists clenched. Alice trembles, hugging herself. Around us, guests shift uneasily, unsure if they should leave or stay. Some have tears in their eyes, others look outraged or simply stunned. Suddenly, one of Catherine's well-heeled friends, a woman named Mrs. Reed, moves forward, her voice carrying a tremor. Adam, I had no idea. I'm so sorry you've been going through this. I nod, exhausted. Thanks. But tonight you all see the truth. That's what matters. Brandon attempts to salvage his image, addressing the shocked group. This is all a misunderstanding. Adam's clearly upset these documents they're taken out of context. Really? I say, my laugh hollow. The DNA results showing you're the biological father of all 3 kids that's out of context? The timestamps on your late-night visits to the beach house? The explicit references in your emails about keeping Adam in the dark? Which part is out of context, Brandon? He flounders, and no one in the room looks convinced. Catherine stares at him, face tight with panic. She knows they can't spin this. A hush falls as the front door opens and a new figure steps in. Margaret Harper, dressed in a neat suit, holding an official binder. She scans the tense crowd, then walks over to me. "Mr. Coleman," she says quietly, "it's done. The filing is official." Heads turn and Brandon's face contorts with fresh fury. "Who is she?" I meet his stare. "My attorney," I reply coldly. "She's here to ensure everything goes smoothly." Margaret, calm as ever, nods at me. "I'll wait outside for you if you need me." She glances at Catherine and Brandon, her eyes reflecting the distaste she must feel at their actions. Then she steps aside. Alice tries to approach me again, her eyes brimming with tears. "Adam, please, let's talk privately. Don't just walk out on me." I square my shoulders, ignoring the ache in my chest. "You walked out on me a long time ago, Alice, when you decided to make me a fool." I lift the stack of evidence again, my voice echoing in the stunned silence. "This is my final statement on the matter. I have nothing more to say to any of you." With that, I pivot, weaving through the small clusters of people. They step aside, eyes wide, as if they're witnessing some Greek tragedy unfold. In the corner of my vision, I see Catherine slump onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Brandon stands stiffly, face mottled with anger. Alice collapses to her knees, shoulders shaking in silent sobs. I pause in the foyer, turning once more to face the crowd. My voice is steady when I speak. For those of you who didn't know, apologies for the drama, but I had to do this publicly, because they sure had no problem living a lie in public. Enjoy the rest of your evening if you can. Leaving behind a room full of shock, I step onto the porch. The cool night air hits me like a slap, but it's refreshing after the suffocating tension inside. My heart races, adrenaline coursing through me. As I walk down the driveway, I hear footsteps behind me. I turn to see Brandon sprinting across the lawn, face twisted with rage. "Adam!" he yells, voice raw. "You can't do this!" I clench my jaw, ready for confrontation. He storms up, fists balled as if he's about to throw a punch. "You humiliated me," he snarls. "You think you can just—" "I can," I cut in, standing my ground. "And I did. If you want more, I'm happy to call the cops." He glares, knuckles whitening. For a moment, I think he might swing at me. But then he glances at the neighbors' houses, some with lights on, and the dinner guests who might come outside any second. He forces himself to step back, chest heaving. "You'll regret this!" he spits, voice quivering. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." I bark a humorless laugh. "Trust me, I know exactly what I've unleashed. Now get out of my way." Shoving past him, I march to my car. My hands tremble, but I refuse to let fear or second-guessing stop me now. As I start the engine, I catch a glimpse of Alice stumbling out onto the porch, tears glistening under the lights. She calls my name, but I shut the door. Enough. I back out, headlights casting stark beams across the yard, illuminating her anguished face for a split second. Then I drive away. My heart hammers as I head toward the house I once called home. I know exactly what I need to do next. Gather my essential belongings, finalize instructions for the children's trust funds, then vanish from Millbrook's twisted web. Margaret, Glover, and Gavin have everything set so that once I leave, Alice and Brandon can't sabotage my finances or harm the kids' trust money. I pull into my driveway, the night sky pressing in. My hands shake when I unlock the door, stepping into the quiet interior. This place feels haunted now, each room tainted by betrayal. I rush to my study, pulling out a folder with the instructions for the trust funds. On top is a letter addressed to Theo, Ella, and Logan, my attempt to explain that, despite everything, I love them and want them to be okay. I slip that letter into an envelope with their names. They might not read it for years, or maybe they'll tear it up in anger, but at least I've tried. Next, I grab a duffel bag and start packing clothes, personal items, a couple of keepsakes that actually matter to me. The rest can burn for all I care. Footsteps in the hall. I whirl, startled, but relax when I see it's just Theo. He stands there in pajamas, eyes sleepy and worried. "Dad? Where's Mom? She said you two were going to Grandma's, but she never came back. What's going on?" A surge of guilt and sorrow hits me. They have no idea. "Hey, buddy," I say, voice cracking. "It's late. You should get back to bed." He eyes the half-filled duffel bag, confusion twisting his features. "Are you going somewhere?" I swallow. I have to take a trip for work, Theo. It came up suddenly. Mom will be back soon." The lie tastes bitter, but the truth would crush him. He's old enough to sense my tension, but not old enough to handle the full reality. He nods slowly, tears forming. Will you be gone a long time? My chest tightens. I'm not sure. I step forward and hug him, ruffling his hair. But I promise I'm doing this because I have to. And I love you. Always remember that. He sniffles, then nods, swallowing back tears. Love you too, Dad. His voice is shaky, and it breaks my heart. I guide him back to his room, tucking him in gently. Ella and Logan are already asleep, oblivious. Part of me wants to wake them, to hold them close, but I know it would only make everything harder, so I place the envelope labeled "To my kids" on the table in the hallway, hoping they'll find it once the dust settles. Returning to my study, I finalize the instructions for the trust funds. A copy goes to Margaret, another to Gavin. They'll handle the rest. I scribble a quick note to the kids on a post-it, attaching it to the envelope, letting them know Margaret can be trusted if they have questions. Then I slip out of the study, duffel bag slung over my shoulder. Downstairs, I pause in the living room, glancing at the family photos on the mantel. We look so happy in them vacations, birthdays, the kids' school events. Now they mock me, testaments to a fantasy life built on lies. I shake my head and flip off the lights. Outside, the night air is crisp and silent. I pack my duffel into the trunk, my mind awash with conflicting emotions: anger, sorrow, relief. I can't believe I'm leaving my children behind, but I also can't stay in this toxic mess. They deserve a stable father figure. Maybe someday I can return once the dust settles. Or maybe not. Everything's uncertain. I slide into the driver's seat, my breath coming fast. Then I start the engine, glancing at the house one last time. 15 years of illusions, gone in a single dramatic evening. My eyes sting with tears, but I blink them away. Pulling out of the driveway, I drive into the night, headlights piercing the darkness. My phone buzzes with calls from unknown numbers, probably Alice or Catherine borrowing someone's phone. I ignore them. I've said everything I need to say. The divorce is filed, the trust funds are locked, and the betrayal stands fully exposed. I guide the car onto the highway that leads out of Millbrook. My mind replays the scene at Catherine's house, the shock, the gasps, Alice's tears, Catherine's breakdown, Brandon's rage. I exhale shakily, realizing I'm finally free from that twisted dynamic. Part of me feels raw and hollow, but another part feels a sense of liberation. An hour later, I pull into a small motel on the outskirts of a neighboring town. It's a humble place, but I just need somewhere to crash before I figure out my next move. I check in under a random name, hauling my duffel inside. The clerk barely glances at me, which is a relief. In the dimly lit motel room, I collapse onto the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. The adrenaline that sustained me through the big reveal has drained, leaving me exhausted. My chest aches for the kids, but I remind myself they'll be protected financially. I can't be the father they need in this chaos. Not now. My phone vibrates again, a text from Margaret. All set, confirmed filing. They can't contest your asset moves. Another from Glover. Hope you're safe. Let me know if you need anything. And a series of missed calls from Alice, wife. I turn the phone off. I close my eyes, mind swirling with images of that catastrophic dinner. For a moment, I wonder if I've gone too far. But then I remember the DNA tests, the lies, the years of manipulation. No, I did what I had to do. They had a bitter end, just as they deserved. The hollow feeling inside might remain for a while, but at least I'm no longer trapped. As I drift off, the last coherent thought I have is of my kids, hoping they'll someday understand, hoping they won't hate me for walking away. But in that moment, I can't face them or the betrayals. All I can do is push forward, one day at a time, free from Millbrook's shadows. I step off the plane with nothing but a carry-on bag and a heart full of conflicting emotions. It's been less than a week since I left Millbrook, but it feels like an entire lifetime. The rush of cool, air-conditioned air hits me as I walk through Changi Airport, surrounded by travelers who have no idea I'm fleeing the wreckage of my old life. The bright overhead signs, immigration, baggage claim, transfers are all in English, yet everything feels foreign. I'm a stranger among strangers, and for the first time in weeks, that's comforting. No one here knows about the scandal, the betrayal, or the devastation I left behind. I can just be a face in the crowd, a man with a new start. Customs takes me less than 10 minutes. My paperwork is all in order thanks to the discreet global contacts I'd lined up with Margaret Harper's help. A local associate named Samuel Tan, recommended by Margaret, is supposed to meet me in arrivals. I scan the throng of faces, feeling a pinch of anxiety. Then I spot a neatly dressed man holding a small sign that reads, A. Coleman. Adam? He calls, stepping forward. He's slim, maybe mid-30s, wearing a crisp white shirt and black slacks. Mr. Coleman, I'm Sam. Margaret Harper asked me to assist you with some local arrangements. I let out a shaky breath. Right. Thanks for coming. My voice still sounds off in my own ears, maybe because I haven't really talked to anyone since I left the States. Sam hands me a bottle of water, then guides me through the maze of the airport. We have a temporary serviced apartment for you, he explains. It's in a quieter area, not the usual expat hotspots. Margaret said you'd prefer some privacy? Definitely, I manage. I can't bear the idea of running into some random American who might ask too many questions. We navigate the airport taxi line, eventually sliding into a sleek black cab. As we drive, I stare out the window at the city unfolding under the tropical sun. Skyscrapers loom against the sky, new developments and old colonial buildings side by side. It's a striking contrast to Millbrook's suburban calm. My mind whirs with the sense of being very far from everything I know, and that's exactly the point. During the ride, Sam points out notable spots. That's Marina Bay over there, and this highway leads to the business district. Singapore is small but efficient, especially for finance and tech. I nod, trying to absorb the information. I appreciate your help. I need a place to stay and some guidance on local procedures, business formation, that kind of thing. He smiles politely. Yes, Margaret briefed me. We have a plan. Tonight you'll rest. Tomorrow I'll take you to meet some legal and financial advisors. You can decide how to proceed from there. A pang of relief mingles with the hollow ache in my chest. Plans. I need plans. They'll keep me from drowning in memories of the chaos I left behind. I replay the final images of Millbrook, my children sleeping, the trust fund instructions on the table. I still feel the guilt gnawing at me, but I push it down. Now isn't the time to break down. I have to keep moving. We arrive at a clean, modern high-rise in a quieter neighborhood than downtown. The doorman gives me a polite nod as Sam leads me to the elevator. We head up to the 10th floor, stepping into a compact, minimalist apartment with large windows overlooking a cluster of buildings. The decor is all white walls and light wood floors, sterile maybe, but safe. Sam shows me the basics. How to use the key card, where the groceries are stocked, who to call for housekeeping. I've also put a local SIM card on the kitchen counter so you can have a Singapore number, he adds, in case you need to reach me or any local contact. Thank you, I say, meaning it. My voice sounds drained, but Sam doesn't comment. He hands me a small folder of documents, lease details, a map of the area, a schedule of appointments he's made for me. Then he leaves with a polite bow, telling me to rest and call if anything comes up. Finally alone, I stand in the living room, gazing at the unfamiliar skyline. Jet lag weighs on me, but so does emotional exhaustion, the betrayal, the confrontation, the image of Alice's tear-streaked face like a looping reel in my head. I remind myself why I'm here, to rebuild, to channel my anger and heartbreak into something that proves I'm not destroyed by their lies. I flick on the TV just to break the silence. Local news chatter in English. I watch a segment about tech initiatives in Southeast Asia, half listening. The anchor interviews a local entrepreneur about blockchain solutions for global logistics. My ears perk up. That's exactly the kind of field I might invest in. A seed of an idea stirs in my mind. I have the knowledge and skill to launch something here, my own startup, or perhaps an investment in cutting-edge tech. Yet a wave of doubt hits me. Can I build something new in a city I barely understand, with my heart still raw from betrayal? For a moment, I recall the early days of my software firm in Millbrook, how I coded until dawn, how Alice once cheered me on. The thought of her triggers a hot stab in my chest. I remind myself that was all a lie. Suddenly restless, I rummage through my carry-on for a change of clothes. The martial arts gym bag I once used for occasional workouts is back in Millbrook. I think about how I might need a new discipline to center my mind now, some kind of training that channels my anger. The city is teeming with opportunities. Maybe Sam can help me find a reputable place to learn something like Muay Thai or Krav Maga. Anything that helps me burn off the fury gnawing my insides. I shower, letting the hot water scald my skin, as if trying to wash away the residue of the past few weeks. Then I collapse into the bed, still in daylight. My body demands rest. Before I can overthink, I slip into a heavy sleep filled with half-formed dreams, flashes of Alice's face, Brandon's smug grin, Catherine's tears, and the children's innocent voices. Night has fallen by the time I jerk awake, sweaty and disoriented. A glance at my phone shows it's past midnight local time. I'm starving. I rummage for the groceries Sam mentioned, finding some bread, fruit, and instant noodles in the small kitchen. It's not exactly gourmet, but I force myself to eat, reminding myself I need physical strength for whatever comes next. After a meal, I check the folder Sam left. There's a page listing tomorrow's itinerary. 9 a.m. Meeting with a local attorney, Miss Ong, to discuss business incorporation. 11:30 a.m. Tour of a co-working space in the business district. 2 p.m. Lunch with a potential financial advisor, Mr. Wei. It's a packed schedule, all aimed at helping me set up a new professional identity and network here. I run my hand over the paper, appreciating the methodical approach. This is exactly what I need. Structure, tasks, stepping stones away from the gaping void left by my old life. I power on my laptop. Emails flood in, some from my staff at Coleman Tech in Millbrook, oblivious that I've parted ways so drastically. A handful from Margaret confirming the divorce process is in motion, that my trust fund instructions for the kids are secure. One email from James Glover with a subject line, update, post-reveal situation. I hesitate, heart pounding. Do I want to read this now? Curiosity wins. I open it. Adam, quick note. The fallout in Millbrook is intense. Brandon's clients are fleeing him. Catherine's social circle is distancing themselves. Alice was placed on leave at the hospital pending an internal review. The false emergency calls you had me dig up. The kids are with her for now, but rumors swirl. Let me know if you need anything else. I'll keep you posted. Glover. My hand trembles on the trackpad. So the results of my vengeance are blossoming exactly as planned. Brandon's reputation ruined, Catherine ostracized, Alice under scrutiny. A dark satisfaction washes over me, but a faint pang of pity for my children twists my stomach. They're caught in the crossfire, living with a mother whose credibility is shattered. Yet it's not enough to make me regret what I did. They had it coming. I close the laptop, mind buzzing. Tomorrow starts my new chapter. I'll bury myself in work, build a fortress of success that dwarfs whatever illusions they tried to maintain. Let them rot in Millbrook with their guilt and downfall. I have to believe this is the only way I can heal. Sleep comes slowly. I lie in the darkness, listening to the faint hum of the city, telling myself I'll survive this. My betrayal, my heartbreak, it's fuel. And come morning, I'll use it to spark the next phase of my life. I wake to the buzz of my phone alarm, disoriented for a moment until I recall I'm in Singapore, not Millbrook. The morning light spills through the tall windows, revealing a skyline dotted with high-rises and palm trees. For a split second, I feel a pang of nostalgia for my suburban house, the kids bickering over cereal. But then the memory of betrayal slams back, pushing me to get up. By 9 a.m., I'm in a glass-walled office meeting with Miss Ong, a poised attorney in her 40s. She greets me warmly, offers tea, and gets right to business. Mr. Coleman, Sam explained you're interested in establishing a business entity here. Are you looking for a private limited company? Or something else? Probably a private limited, I reply, sipping the green tea she poured. The taste is bitter, but oddly grounding. I have experience running a software firm, but I'm starting fresh. I might do a new venture or invest in promising local startups. She nods, flipping through forms on her tablet. Singapore is an excellent hub for tech entrepreneurs. We can expedite your registration if you have all your ID documents. I do, I say quietly, pulling out my passport and the relevant notarized documents Margaret had prepared. Miss Ong's efficiency reminds me that everything I left behind can be replaced or reinvented here. We spend an hour hashing out the details: board structure, share allocation, minimal compliance. It's exhilarating in a strange way, like building a new identity brick by brick. For a moment, I wonder if I'm overcompensating, but I push the thought aside. This is my path forward. Later, Sam whisks me to a co-working space downtown. It's a sleek, modern building with open-concept desks, bright murals, and clusters of coders typing away. The vibe reminds me of the early days of my old company in Millbrook, only it's in a tropical metropolis, buzzing with new ideas. A friendly community manager named Claire shows me around, pointing out meeting rooms, phone booths, and cafe areas. We host monthly pitch nights, she explains, where local startups showcase projects to potential investors or collaborators. It's a great way to get plugged into the scene. My mind whirls with possibilities. Maybe I'll rent a private office here, scout local talent, see if I can replicate my success from back home. A flicker of pride stirs in me, realizing I'm still capable of forging a new path despite the emotional wreckage. I ask Claire about the cost, the membership terms, nodding as she outlines packages. She doesn't ask personal questions beyond my professional interests, which is a relief. I'm not ready to share my backstory with anyone. Here, I'm just another entrepreneur from the States wanting to tap into Asia's growth. Before leaving, she hands me a glossy brochure. "We'd love to have you if you decide to set up shop here, Mr. Coleman. Let me know if you have any questions." I thank her, stepping back into the steamy Singapore streets. Sam is waiting in the lobby, checking his phone. "Hungry?" he asks, a practical smile on his face. I nod. "Yeah, let's eat. I've got a lunch meeting at 2 o'clock, but something quick right now would help." He leads me to a hawker center, a covered area filled with stalls offering local dishes. The aromas of spices, noodles, grilled meats swirl around me. I order chicken rice, a classic dish. It's simple, hearty. Somehow, the bustle of this place, the sizzling pans, the chatter in various languages helps ground me in the present, away from the echoes of what I left behind. In the afternoon, Sam and I catch a taxi to meet Mr. Wei, a potential financial advisor. He's waiting at a casual eatery in the business district. Short, stocky, and exuding confidence, he shakes my hand with enthusiasm. He knows Sam from some prior collaboration, so the introductions go smoothly. "Adam," Mr. Wei says, gesturing for me to sit, "I hear you have capital to invest and might be looking for local partners. Let's talk about your goals." I hesitate, glancing at Sam, who gives me a reassuring nod. "Well, I've run a software company for years. I'm exploring opportunities in blockchain-based supply chain solutions, AI-driven logistics stuff that's booming in Asia." Wei listens intently. Singapore is definitely the place for that. Many startups are emerging here with strong government support. With your background, you could either launch your own venture or become an angel investor, guiding younger founders. His words spark something in me. Maybe this is how I rebuild, by channeling my knowledge into a new wave of innovation. And if I'm honest, a piece of me wants to prove to Alice, Brandon, and Catherine, though they're half a world away, that I'm not broken by their betrayal. I'm stronger. We chat about potential angles, setting up a development team, collaborating with local universities, or investing in existing projects. Wei outlines some connections he has, promising introductions if I join him for a networking event next week. I agree to think it over, feeling the glimmer of ambition stirring in my veins. As we part, he hands me his card. "I sense big things are possible for you here, Adam. Let's keep talking." On the ride back to my apartment, I stare out the taxi window at the bustling city. It's a swirl of culture, commerce, and relentless energy. I feel a flicker of excitement mixing with the ache in my chest. Maybe I can remake myself in this place. Maybe I can bury the old Adam Coleman who was so easily deceived. That night, I collapse onto the apartment's small couch, rummaging through the day's notes. My phone buzzes an unknown number, likely Margaret or Glover with updates. I brace myself and answer. "Adam, it's Margaret." Her voice is crisp. "Just letting you know the divorce process is proceeding without issues. Alice's lawyer hasn't filed any counters yet, might be waiting to see if you contact them. But your asset protections are ironclad." I breathe a small sigh of relief. "Thanks. And the trust funds? The kids are covered?" "Yes, fully. The trustee is following your guidelines. Alice can't touch a dime. As for Catherine and Brandon, well, she hesitates. They're both facing serious social and financial repercussions. Brandon lost several major clients. Catherine's circle is shunning her. It's, pretty dramatic. I exhale, not sure how to feel. My plan to punish them is working, but hearing it spelled out still stings. Right, I murmur. Keep me posted. Margaret's tone softens. Take care of yourself, Adam. After we end the call, I lean back, mind swirling, so the carnage in Millbrook continues. The revenge is in motion, but I'm thousands of miles away. Part of me wonders if I should feel more triumphant, but I just feel tired. Pushing the thoughts aside, I focus on drafting a business plan. If I'm going to do something meaningful here, I need a clear vision. My old company in Millbrook thrived on my coding genius. This time, maybe I want to focus on solutions for supply chain logistics or advanced data analytics, something that's globally impactful. I type ideas into my laptop, the glow of the screen reflecting in my tired eyes. Hours pass, a flurry of brainstorming. By the time I glance at the clock, it's past 2 a.m. My shoulders ache, but I've filled pages of notes with ideas for a new software platform. It feels good, remembering that I'm still capable of creation, not just destruction. The betrayal might have shattered me, but it hasn't taken my ability to innovate. As I drift to sleep, I recall Sam's mention of martial arts classes. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'll ask him to connect me to a gym. I need to channel the anger that still brews beneath my calm. If I don't, it'll consume me. Yet there's a strange flicker of hope in my chest. The city outside my window pulses with life. I survived the worst heartbreak of my life, and now I have a chance, maybe the only chance, to rebuild as someone stronger. I'm standing barefoot on a smooth, padded floor, sweat pouring down my temples. The air smells of rubber mats and disinfectant. Around me, a handful of other students practice kicks and punches under the watchful eye of Master Koji, a wiry man in his 60s with sharp eyes and an unyielding posture. We're in a discreet martial arts studio tucked away in a quieter district of Singapore, recommended by Sam. Adam, focus, Master Koji says sternly, demonstrating a defensive maneuver. Your mind seems elsewhere. He's right, of course. My mind constantly wanders to Millbrook, to the kids, to the lingering fury over Catherine, Alice, and Brandon. But that's exactly why I sought out this place. I need discipline, a structure that forces me to be present in my body, not lost in my haunted thoughts. Sorry, I mumble. I'll do better. He nods, and we continue the routine. For the next hour, I channel my anger into each strike, each block. Master Koji corrects my form, occasionally giving me a fleeting look of approval when I execute a move correctly. By the time class ends, I'm physically drained, yet oddly clearer in my head. Afterward, I wipe my face with a towel, noticing a woman in the corner doing post-training stretches. She's around my age, with a calm, focused demeanor. Master Koji introduces her as Naomi, a longtime student here. She gives me a nod. First time? You did okay, she says, her accent lightly influenced by British English. I'm learning, I reply, a bit out of breath. She doesn't pry, and I'm grateful. I sense that many people here come to train for personal reasons they prefer not to elaborate. We exchange a few pleasantries, then I head out into the muggy midday heat. My shirt clings to me, but I feel a small flicker of triumph. This is something purely mine, an outlet for the swirling emotions that dog me day and night. That afternoon, I return to my apartment and find a small care package from Sam at the front desk, more groceries, plus a local newspaper with a sticky note. Check page 6. I flip to the page and see an article about a new tech accelerator program launching soon, seeking early-stage companies to mentor. I skim it, adrenaline quickening. This might be the perfect environment for the software ideas I've been formulating. I text Sam. Thanks for the tip. Can you set a meeting with the accelerator folks? He replies immediately, already working on it. Let's aim for next week. Feeling restless, I open my laptop, scanning for updates from Margaret or Glover. Sure enough, there's a fresh email from Glover with the subject line, Family Letters. My heart twinges. I recall instructing Margaret to hold on to letters for each of the kids, Theo, Ella, Logan, should they ever need them. Did Glover discover something about that? Adam, small update. The trust is set, and your letters for the children are in Margaret's safe. No direct news on whether they suspect you left anything behind. They're likely consumed by the local fallout. Let me know if you want me to do anything else regarding your personal items back in Millbrook. Glover. I exhale slowly, tension creeping into my shoulders. I imagine the kids rummaging around the house, or maybe Alice rummaging in my old study. It's too painful to dwell on. Instead, I remind myself they're financially secure. One day they'll read my letters, realize I didn't abandon them without caring. I fire off a quick reply. No further action needed. Thanks, Glover. Later I try to focus on my software prototypes, but my thoughts drift to the children. My chest clenches with guilt. Have they started to hate me for vanishing? Did they discover the truth about Brandon being their biological father? Glover's updates are purely logistical. I have no emotional insight into how they're coping. That might be for the best. I can't handle that knowledge right now. Needing a break, I take the elevator down, stepping onto the bustling street. The city hums with life. Vendors selling fruit, office workers rushing back from lunch, families strolling. I'm anonymous here, which used to be comforting. But now, I feel a pang of loneliness. In Millbrook, even though it was built on lies, I had a family, a home, a sense of belonging. Here, I have ambition and newfound freedom, but no emotional tether. Across the street, I notice a small cafe. I step in, ordering an iced tea. While waiting, I spot a flyer on a bulletin board. Networking Night Expat Entrepreneurs, some event happening in a few days at a nearby hotel. Might be useful. If I'm serious about building a new enterprise, I need connections. I take the flyer, slip it into my pocket, and head back outside. The sun beats down, and I remind myself it's perpetually summer here. A metaphor for my new life. No more seasons, no more anchor to the old cycle. Just an endless stretch of possibilities. That evening, I find myself in front of a humble door in a quiet residential neighborhood. This is the address Sam gave me for a man named Franklin, an old friend of Margaret's who used to live in the U.S. Franklin apparently mentors Americans struggling with personal trauma while relocating to Asia. I'm not sure if I want therapy, but something about it feels necessary. I knock, and a tall, middle-aged man with a kind face opens up. Adam, come in. Margaret told me you might visit. He leads me into a cozy living room lined with bookshelves and scattered armchairs. We chat lightly at first. He offers me water, then sits across from me with an open posture. So, Margaret said you're going through a massive life shift. I'm not a licensed therapist, he warns, but I've been helping expats for years, especially those dealing with big emotional changes. I appreciate his directness. I just left my entire life behind, I say quietly, and it was messy, betrayal, heartbreak. I'm trying to rebuild, but I'm not sure how to handle the anger or guilt. Franklin listens calmly, nodding. I've seen it before. People run from pain, hoping a new environment will fix them. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. The key is acknowledging your emotions and not letting them turn toxic. I hesitate, then share a clipped version of my story minus names, minus the brutal specifics. I mention a marriage that ended in betrayal, children I had to leave behind for their own sake. He doesn't look shocked or judgmental. He just offers empathy. It's natural to feel angry, he says softly. But if anger is all you have, it'll eat you alive. You need to find something positive to channel it into. Perhaps your new startup or martial arts, or eventually, something that gives you meaning beyond revenge. His words strike a nerve. I've been so focused on humiliating them, ensuring they suffer, that I haven't thought about my own future well-being beyond building success. I nod, feeling raw. How do I let go of the betrayal? He shrugs gently. It's not about forgetting. It's about accepting what happened, learning from it, and deciding how to move forward. That might take time, and it might never be 100%, but building a new life can be part of the healing. I close my eyes, letting his words sink in. Maybe he's right. My drive to prove my ex-wife and mother wrong, to show them I'm unstoppable while it's fueling me now, it might not sustain me forever. Eventually, I might need a deeper purpose. Thank you, I murmur. This helps a little. He offers a small smile. Come back anytime. We'll talk more. Back in my apartment, I mull over Franklin's advice. I open my laptop, staring at the lines of code for the software prototype I started. It's an AI-based tool for optimizing shipping routes and inventory management, simple so far, but promising. I think about how building this out could not only give me financial success, but also solve real problems in global commerce. My phone dings with a message from Sam. Update. The accelerator is interested in hearing your pitch next week. Let's prepare. Another chance, another step forward. Closing my eyes, I breathe deeply. Maybe I can transform my heartbreak into something meaningful. I scribble a note in my planner. Schedule weekly sessions with Franklin. Keep training with Master Koji. Finalize pitch for accelerator. It's a routine of self-improvement and forward motion. Late at night, I pen the first letter to my children that I actually plan to send someday, maybe in a year, maybe in 10. I don't detail the betrayal or blame their mother. Instead, I explain how much I love them, how I left to protect them from further conflict, how I hope we can reconnect when the dust settles. My hand shakes, tears smudging the ink. But for the first time since I left, I feel a hint of release. Maybe I'm healing. Slowly, painfully, but healing. I tuck the letter into a sealed envelope and place it in the drawer with my other private documents. Then I turn off the lights, letting exhaustion take me. The city outside is quiet now, neon lights casting faint reflections on my window. I've survived heartbreak. Now I'm learning to live again, piece by piece. A month passes in a whirlwind of coding sprints, martial arts classes, and business meetings. Each morning I wake up in my minimalist apartment, reminding myself that I'm no longer that naive husband in Millbrook. I'm rebuilding mentally, physically, financially. During the day, I bury myself in perfecting my software solution. I call it TrackFlow, a platform that uses AI to streamline supply chains, predicting bottlenecks and optimizing routes. While it's still in early development, I can sense its potential. I craft a pitch deck with Sam's help, refining my value proposition, global efficiency through real-time intelligence. 3 nights a week, I attend martial arts training with Master Koji. My body grows stronger, my reflexes sharper. Naomi occasionally gives me pointers, and we exchange friendly conversation about life. She knows I'm from the States and left behind complications, but she never pries. This routine of disciplined physical exertion does wonders for my mental state. The anger doesn't vanish, but it becomes more controlled, less likely to erupt unexpectedly. In the background, Franklin's words echo, "Find meaning beyond revenge." Some days I catch myself daydreaming about the humiliation Catherine, Alice, and Brandon must be facing in Millbrook. I still savor the thought, but it's less consuming than before. My daily life here is too full to let bitterness be my only focus. One afternoon, I step onto the stage at a local accelerator's demo day. It's a small event, about 50 investors, mentors, and tech enthusiasts. I've practiced my pitch in front of a mirror until I can recite it in my sleep. My heart hammers with nerves, but I refuse to let fear stop me. Taking a breath, I present TrackFlow, how it addresses inefficiencies in logistics, how AI can predict supply chain disruptions before they happen, how the platform's potential extends globally. I weave in my background. I'm an experienced software entrepreneur from the US now based in Singapore, but I don't mention the messy past that drove me here. By the end, there's a ripple of applause. A handful of people approach me, business cards at the ready. Miss Chang, an investor from a well-known venture capital firm, tells me she's intrigued. She invites me to her office to discuss potential seed funding. I feel a surge of cautious hope. This is real progress. The next week, I find myself in Miss Chung's high-rise office, perched on a plush chair while she fires questions about my roadmap, revenue model, expansion plans. It's intense, but I can handle it. These are the details I used to handle effortlessly before everything imploded. Finally, she leans back, a hint of a smile. I think we can offer you a seed investment of $500,000 if you're ready to commit to Singapore as your base. With that, you can expand your dev team, accelerate your product timeline. My heart bangs against my ribs. This is the moment I dreamed about in my darkest nights after leaving Millbrook, when I swore I'd rise again. I'm in, I say, managing a steady tone. She shakes my hand, sealing the deal that catapults me from a wandering exile to a funded entrepreneur. Within days, I sign a term sheet, transferring the seed funding into the bank account Miss Ong helped me establish. Now I'm the CEO of a new venture, Coleman Innovations, Singapore, launching TrackFlow as our flagship product. Sam helps me find an office suite in a modern building near the co-working space, and I recruit a small team of local developers. We work long hours, a flurry of coding sprints, whiteboard sessions, and coffee-fueled brainstorming. It feels reminiscent of my early days in Millbrook, except this time there's no illusions about a loving wife waiting at home. Instead, I rely on a circle of newly made friends Sam, Naomi from martial arts, a few of the developers for minimal social contact. It's enough for now. In quiet moments, I reflect on how far I've come in just a few months. My name is attached to a brand new company that might change global logistics. I've severed ties with the betrayals that haunted me, channeling my rage into productivity. A sense of pride builds, overshadowing the ache that lingers deep inside. One afternoon, I receive a call from Margaret. "Adam, your divorce decree is finalized," she announces. "Alice signed the settlement. Everything stands as you set up, including your children's trust funds. You're officially free." The words echo in my mind. Officially free. A swirl of relief and sadness war in my chest. "Thanks, Margaret," I manage. "That's good news." She hesitates. "Are you okay?" I swallow hard. "Yeah," I say. "I'm okay, thank you." After hanging up, I stare at the cityscape through my office window. The marriage that defined half my adult life is officially over. I almost laugh at the irony my heart was divorced from Alice's the moment I discovered her betrayal, but now the law has caught up. I'm free to date, to live, to define myself anew. The final document is a coda to that entire chapter. To mark the moment, I walk to the tiny office kitchen, pour myself a cup of green tea, and toast to the empty air. "Here's to a new future," I murmur. My employees glance over curiously, but I just smile, raising the cup. They don't need to know the details. That evening, I step onto my balcony at the new apartment I rented near the office, larger than the serviced unit, with a small outdoor space. The city glitters below, neon lights reflecting off glass towers. A gentle breeze rustles my hair, warm and soothing. I pull out my phone and scroll through contacts, pausing at the kids' names. I haven't called them, haven't texted. Legally, I'm still allowed to contact them, but I decided to keep distance until they're older, or until I feel stable enough to deal with the emotional fallout. The trust funds are secure, the letters are with Margaret. One day I'll face that music, but not yet. A pang strikes me, imagining Logan's gap-toothed grin, Ella's sarcastic quips, Theo's serious brow when he's concentrating on homework. Are they doing okay? Probably confused, maybe resentful. I can't let that derail me now. I have to succeed to become someone worthy of re-entering their lives someday. Rubbing my eyes, I stare at the distant lights of ships in the harbor. This city, this new life, it's mine to shape. I left Millbrook in ruins, but I'm forging something stronger out of my own ruin. My phone buzzes, a text from Miss Chung, reminding me of a networking event next week with high-profile investors. Another rung on the ladder I'm climbing. As I stand there, sipping the last of my tea, a quiet resolve settles over me. I'll make Coleman Innovations a powerhouse in Asia. I'll push TrackFlow to reshape global supply chains. I'll become the unstoppable man they never dreamed I could be. If my old life taught me anything, it's that trust can be broken in a heartbeat, so I rely now on my own will. Lightning flashes in the distant sky, perhaps a storm rolling in. I watch it, feeling the thunder rumble faintly. If storms taught me anything, it's that they pass, leaving behind fresh air. This storm in my life has given me new clarity, a chance to stand on my own 2 feet, albeit with scars. I raise my empty cup to the skyline. I'm free, I whisper, letting the words settle. No more illusions, no more shackles. The betrayal I endured has propelled me to new heights, and for the first time since I left Millbrook, I genuinely believe I can be more than a victim of heartbreak. I turn back into the apartment, mind buzzing with thoughts of expansions, philanthropic projects I might fund someday, ways to quietly ensure my children's future remains bright. My heartbreak hasn't vanished, but I'm learning to live with it and to build something out of the ashes they left me with. The door clicks shut behind me, and I realize I've stepped into the next chapter of my life. No matter how the future unfolds, I've already proven one thing. I'm not defined by their betrayal. I'm defined by how I rose after it. The private jet descends through a haze of late afternoon clouds, giving me my first glimpse of Millbrook in years. From my window seat, I see a patchwork of suburban streets, rows of houses dotted with autumn colors. My stomach flips at the sight. This is the town I fled. Now I'm returning not as the man who left, but as someone changed, for better or worse. A discreet driver is waiting for me at the small executive airstrip. He hoists my carry-on bag into the trunk of a sleek black sedan, then opens the passenger door. I sink into the seat, pressing a hand against my chest to steady my nerves. It's been years since I last set foot in Millbrook. Now I'm here at the invitation of the local business council, who begged me to help revive a dying tech park. They don't realize how personal this trip is for me. The driver merges onto the highway, and I watch the passing scenery with a tightness in my chest. Billboards advertise half-empty office complexes, new housing developments stalled mid-construction. It all feels less vibrant than I remember, like the soul of Millbrook has withered. Once this town thrived on old money and small-town prestige, but the economy took a nosedive in recent years. My phone buzzes in my jacket pocket. I fish it out to see a message from Miss Keller, one of my stateside coordinators. "Welcome back, Mr. Coleman. The local leaders are excited to discuss the project with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. I text a curt acknowledgement, then switch my phone to silent. I'm not in the mood for pleasantries. As the sedan veers off the highway and into the familiar suburban streets, my mind drifts to the reason I left. I can practically see the ghosts of my old life at every corner. The grocery store where I once brought the kids, the diner where I'd meet friends for coffee, the old craftsman-style home I had bought back when I thought I had the perfect marriage. A sour taste fills my mouth. After 10 minutes, the driver turns onto a broad avenue lined with stately oaks. He pulls up to the entrance of Millbrook's fanciest hotel, a place I never stayed at when I lived here, but ironically, I can now afford the best suite without blinking. I thank him, stepping out and adjusting my suit jacket. My reflection in the hotel's glass doors catches me off guard. I'm older, with a few threads of silver at my temples. My posture is more rigid. The friendly, trusting expression I once had is gone. A uniformed bellhop rushes to greet me. "Welcome to the Grand Millbrook, sir. May I help with your luggage?" I force a polite smile. "Sure, thanks." Inside the lobby, I check in under Adam Coleman, my real name. No hiding this time. The hotel manager instantly recognizes me. Word must have spread about my arrival. He gushes about how the entire local business community is thrilled that Coleman Innovations might invest in the failing tech park. I nod politely, giving nothing away. Part of me bristles at the irony. The same town that harbored my betrayal is now desperate for my money and expertise. In my suite, I drop onto the plush armchair by the window, staring out at the skyline. From here, I can see a sliver of the old neighborhood in the distance. My heart clenches at the thought of running into the very people who ripped my life apart years ago. The outline of my former house is hidden behind a cluster of trees. I breathe through the swirl of emotions. A knock on the door startles me. I open it to find Emily Pierce, a local business liaison, holding a stack of documents. She's in her early 30s, businesslike but warm-eyed. "Mr. Coleman?" she says, voice uncertain. "I'm Emily, from the Millbrook Economic Council. I wanted to drop off a briefing packet for tomorrow's meeting." Her sincerity almost disarms me. I wave her inside. "Sure, come in. And call me Adam." She sets the papers on the coffee table. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We know you have plenty of options. Millbrook's tech park is on the brink of bankruptcy, and your potential investment could mean everything." I catch a flicker of desperation behind her polite tone. "I'm looking forward to hearing the details," I reply, keeping my voice measured. "Let's see if we can find a path forward." Emily relaxes, offering a small smile. "Well, the entire council is optimistic. We've prepared presentations, site visits, whatever you need." I nod. "I appreciate your effort, Miss Pierce." She hesitates, glancing at me as if weighing whether to ask something personal. Ultimately, she bites her tongue, just leaving a business card. "If you have any questions before tomorrow, feel free to call. Have a good evening, Adam." After she leaves, I sink onto the couch, opening the briefing packet. Maps, charts, budget proposals, none of it surprises me. The tech park is hemorrhaging money, half its tenants gone. They want me to swoop in, rebrand it under Coleman Innovations, and spark a local tech renaissance. I could do that. I have the resources, the connections. But a bigger part of me wonders if this is an excuse to face the ghosts of my past. Night falls, and I sit in silence, letting the tension settle over me. My mind flits to the people I left behind. Did the children stay in Millbrook? Are they old enough now to see me for who I am and for who their mother is? If I drive by my old house, will I find it occupied by a new family? Or does Alice still live there with the kids? The questions churn in my head, swirling with both dread and a strange longing. Eventually, I stand, restless. I slip out of the hotel, ignoring the curious stares of staff, and wander the quiet streets alone. Streetlights cast long shadows. I recognize the distant shape of a church steeple, the flicker of an old movie theater marquee. Everything is the same, yet different, like a stage set that's been left to weather. At a dimly lit corner, I pause by a small park. There's a rusted swing set, empty at this hour. My chest tightens, recalling how I once pushed little Logan on a swing at a similar park. The memory stings and I press my eyes shut, swallowing hard. This trip isn't just about business, no matter what I tell myself. It's about confronting the final pieces of the betrayal that shaped me into who I am. A cold breeze ruffles my hair. I realize that tomorrow I'll see the tech park, meet local officials, and possibly cross paths with faces I once knew. My pulse pounds at the thought. Alice, Brandon, Catherine, maybe even my children, Theo, Ella, Logan. They're practically adults now. Years have passed. I clench my fists, steadying my breath. This is a chance to decide how I'll deal with them. I'm not here to forgive or forget, but maybe I'm here to close the circle. To show them the man I became, that their betrayal didn't break me. The question is, how brutal do I want to be? Eventually, I walk back to the hotel, unsettled but resolved. This place is both a battlefield of old wounds and a potential site for new beginnings. Tomorrow, I'll face the council and see if rebuilding the tech park is viable. And soon, whether I like it or not, I'll have to face the people who once destroyed my world. As I lie in the plush hotel bed, I wonder if this time I'll truly find redemption, or if I'm just reopening scars. In the hush of the night, Millbrook's ghosts feel closer than ever, waiting to see what I'll do. I wake before dawn, nerves jangling with anticipation. My meeting with the Millbrook Economic Council isn't until 10, but I can't sit still. After a quick shower, I dress in a charcoal suit, carefully adjusting my cufflinks. The reflection in the mirror reveals a man on edge, though my expression is calm. Time to face the day. Down in the lobby, Emily Pierce greets me with a bright smile. "Morning, Adam. We've set up a conference room at the tech park. Whenever you're ready, we can head over." I notice the faint lines of stress around her eyes. She's clearly banking on me to save the project. I give a curt nod. Let's go. The drive out to the tech park feels surreal. Once, I never even knew it existed. I was busy with my own startup. Now it's a patch of half-vacant buildings, sporting a faded sign reading Millbrook Tech Hub. The parking lot has cracks running through it, a few lonely cars spaced apart. A pang hits me. This place mirrors the decay that set in after I left. Emily leads me into a squat, modern-looking building that probably looked futuristic a decade ago. We pass deserted corridors and flickering overhead lights. Finally, we reach a glass-walled conference room where half a dozen people wait. They stand as I enter, some flashing relieved smiles. Introductions come quickly. Local council members, a city planner, a representative from the mayor's office. They all exude anxiety and hope. One older councilman, Mr. Harris, steps forward, shaking my hand with more enthusiasm than necessary. "Mr. Coleman," he says, voice earnest, "we're grateful you're even considering an investment. This tech park used to be thriving, but as you can see..." He gestures around at the empty halls, letting the silence speak for itself. I take a seat at the head of the conference table, scanning the sorrowful faces. "I appreciate the invite," I say carefully. "But let's be honest, I'm not here as a charity. If we move forward, it'll be a business decision. I need to see a path to profitability and a way to rebuild this place." A murmur of agreement runs through the group. They launch into presentations about tax incentives, potential tenants, and ways to rebrand the park. I listen intently, occasionally jotting down notes. They paint a picture of a once promising hub undone by poor management and shifting economic winds. It might be salvageable with the right capital injection and my leadership, presumably. Yet I can't shake the sense that this is bigger than just a business deal. Millbrook is where my life fractured. Now they're asking me to fix something broken. A grim irony, indeed. After an hour, Emily steps in with coffee and we take a break. As the others mill about, I step outside for some air. The morning sun highlights the overgrown landscaping and cracked pavement. My mind drifts to that final night I spent in Millbrook years ago, slipping away like a ghost. Now I'm here, bigger than life, about to potentially rescue an entire park. I can't decide if it's satisfying or tragic. Footsteps behind me. I turn to find Emily approaching, her expression uncertain. "How are you feeling about all this?" she asks, gently. I shrug. The numbers aren't great, but there's potential. My eyes flick to her face. "You mentioned you're from here?" She nods. "Born and raised. Saw the town's fortunes rise and fall. It's been tough watching everything decline. A lot of people left." She hesitates. "I heard you were from Millbrook originally, too, but you left a while back?" Her question hangs in the air. I sense the curiosity behind her polite facade. "Yes, I did," I say softly. "I had personal reasons." A flicker of old anger flashes through me, but I clamp it down. Now I'm back in a different capacity. She nods slowly, reading the subtext. "Well, if it means anything, many locals are excited. Some are just wary of outsiders, even if you're originally from here. They don't know you anymore." I manage a tight smile. "They'll know me soon enough." We return to the conference room, finishing the meeting. I give them a vague but encouraging statement. I see a path forward, but I'll need thorough data on their finances, existing leases, liabilities. They promise to compile it. The council dismisses, wearing cautious smiles. Stepping outside, I notice a figure waiting by a parked car, a woman with blonde hair showing streaks of gray. My heart catches in my throat. Alice, or an uncanny stand-in. But no, it's not her. The woman glances away, uninterested. My pulse still hammers from the near shock. I decide to drive around the old neighborhood, a reflex I can't suppress. I rent a car from a local agency and head out alone, ignoring Emily's offer to accompany me. I need solitude for this. The streets are both familiar and alien. Some houses have fresh paint, manicured lawns. Others are unkempt, with weed-ridden yards. A sense of creeping neglect lingers. My stomach tenses as I near the street where I used to live. I slow the car, hands gripping the wheel. The old house stands at the end of the block. Same porch, same large oak tree, but it looks slightly run down, like no one cares for it properly. I park across the street, engine idling, fear coiling in my gut. If Alice is still there, she could walk out any second. My eyes scan the yard for signs of life. The curtains are drawn, the mailbox is overflowing. It's a Monday afternoon, maybe nobody's home. With trembling fingers, I snap a quick photo of the house on my phone, then drive away. Back at my hotel, I stew in conflicting emotions. The local news channel runs a segment about the possible Coleman Innovations project, speculating that I might buy out the tech park. They call it a ray of hope for Millbrook. I flick the TV off in disgust. This town never gave me hope when I needed it. Still, I can't deny the pull of wanting to fix what's broken. Maybe it's a reflection of wanting to fix my own scars. Just after sunset, my phone lights up with a call from a local number. I answer, bracing myself. A deep, familiar voice says, "Adam, it's Brandon. I need to speak with you." My blood runs cold. Brandon Myers, the man at the center of my wife's betrayal years ago. The reason I left. My grip tightens on the phone. "How'd you get my number?" He exhales. "Through a mutual contact. Listen, I know you're back in town. We should talk. About the tech park. About everything." I grit my teeth. "What exactly do we have to talk about, Brandon?" He's silent for a beat. "I work at one of the local accounting firms now. The new mayor's office tapped us to do some financial consulting for the tech park. So we might cross paths anyway. I figure we handle it directly." The thought of a professional encounter with him makes my stomach churn. But maybe this is inevitable. "Fine," I say flatly. "Tomorrow, 8 in the morning, the coffee shop on Oak Street. Show up on time or don't show at all." He murmurs agreement. Then the line clicks dead. My hand shakes with leftover rage. So he's still around, apparently demoted from big-shot financial advisor to a mid-level accountant. The old me would savor the knowledge that he fell from grace. But right now, I feel more dread than satisfaction. A few minutes later, my phone buzzes again. Another local number. With a deep breath, I pick up. This time, it's a woman's voice, brittle yet desperate. "Adam, it's Catherine." My mother. My pulse spikes. All that anger I thought I'd buried threatening to explode. I say nothing, letting her speak. She takes the silence as permission to continue. "I heard you're back, dear. I know we've had our differences, but I'd like to see you. Please." Her voice cracks on the last word. Memories surge. Her orchestrating my wife's affair. Her smug belief she knew better. The collapse of my life. I clench my jaw. "I don't think so," I say in a low tone. "I'm here on business. That's all." She breathes a shaky sigh. "I understand, but I'm not the same woman I was. I'm living in a small apartment now, barely making ends meet. I just want to talk. Maybe ask your forgiveness or something." A twisted blend of triumph and pity swirls in my chest. She's reaping the consequences of her betrayal. That was the plan, right? Still, hearing her fragile voice rattles me. "I'll think about it," I manage, then hang up before she can say more. Slumping onto the bed, I press my palms over my eyes. Brandon, Catherine. Alice is the only one who hasn't called me yet. The trifecta of betrayal is converging. Tomorrow morning, I'll face Brandon, and who knows who else might appear in the following days. A part of me wants to skip town, but another part insists on seeing this through. Late that night, I stand at the hotel window, city lights twinkling in the distance. I remind myself I'm not that broken husband anymore. I have power, resources, a life built on my own terms. If Brandon and Catherine try to manipulate me again, they'll find a man they can't bend. And if Alice, my ex-wife, shows up, I'll decide whether she deserves even a moment of my time. Tomorrow is the first real confrontation. I can already feel the old anger churning. But I also sense the glimmer of something else, the possibility of closure. Even if it means ripping open wounds, maybe I can finally bury this chapter. I watch my reflection in the glass, a stoic man on the verge of a reckoning. And I think, let them come. I'm ready. I arrive at the small coffee shop on Oak Street 15 minutes early, determined not to seem rushed. The place is cozy, with old wooden tables and the aroma of fresh beans. It's mostly empty this early, just a few bleary-eyed regulars typing on laptops. I pick a corner table and order a black coffee. My mind races, anticipating Brandon's arrival. My foot taps impatiently under the table. Scenes of that final confrontation years ago flash through me. The stairs, the rage, him chasing after me in a swirl of curses. Now we're going to sit across from each other like professionals. The thought feels absurd. A few minutes past 8, the door opens. Brandon Myers steps in. He spots me immediately, face tight, and crosses the shop. He's changed a bit more lined, hair thinning at the temples. His once expensive suits have been replaced by a modest jacket and slacks. He stops at my table, hesitating like he's waiting for an invitation. I gesture at the chair. He sits, folding his hands on the table. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The tension is palpable. Finally, he says quietly, "Adam, thanks for meeting me. I know we have a history." I bark a short laugh. That's one way to put it. His jaw tenses. "Look, I'm not here to dig up old wounds, but I can't ignore the fact that you're about to become a major player in the local economy, and my firm handles some accounting for the city. We might end up working together." I sip my coffee, eyes never leaving his. "So you want to get ahead of any awkwardness?" "Smart." He nods, exhaling. "Yes. Also, I wanted to say, for what it's worth, I regret how things ended. I never meant for it to go so far." My pulse spikes with anger. "Did you regret it when you lied to my face for over a decade, fathered 3 kids with my wife behind my back, or only when you got caught?" He flinches, and for a second I see genuine shame in his eyes. "I can't change the past, Adam. My life's in shambles anyway, my career, my relationships. Alice and we're not together anymore. Everything fell apart." A dark satisfaction stirs in me. So they didn't ride off into the sunset as a happy couple, but I keep my expression neutral. "What do you want from me? Forgiveness? A pass?" He shakes his head. "No. I guess I just want to coexist without more destruction. People in this town rely on us to help fix the tech park. We have to be civil. I weigh his words. The old me might have thrown coffee in his face, but I've grown beyond that, or so I tell myself. Fine, I say. We can be civil. Don't expect friendship. He nods, relief flickering across his features. That's all I ask. He rises, fumbling to leave a few dollars for his coffee, then hesitates. By the way, the kids. They're older now. You might see them around. I hold up a hand. They're none of your business. Goodbye, Brandon. He grimaces, then leaves without another word. I slump back in my chair, heart thudding. So that's confrontation number 1. He's a shadow of the arrogant man he once was. Part of me feels vindicated. Part of me feels hollow. Later that afternoon, I return to the hotel to find Emily Pierce waiting in the lobby. She approaches with an apologetic smile. Adam, there's someone here asking about you, says it's personal. I asked them to wait in a private lounge. I hope that's okay. My muscles tense. Who is it? She glances at a note in her hand. Name is Logan Coleman. He said he's your son? She looks at me with wide eyes. Is that correct? My pulse nearly stops. Logan, my youngest. He'd be around 19 now. I swallow hard. Yes, that's correct. Where is he? Emily points down a corridor. I nod, forcing my feet to move. My heart thunders with every step. I push open the door to a small lounge. My breath catches. Logan stands by a window, taller than I remember, slender, with hints of the boyish features I once knew. He turns at the sound of the door, his eyes uncertain. My chest feels like it might explode. Dad, he says, voice trembling slightly. Can we talk? For a moment, I can't speak. All the years flash before me teaching him to ride a bike, reading bedtime stories. Then the betrayal that none of those childhood moments were truly mine by blood. But that doesn't erase what I felt. Logan, I manage, stepping closer. Of course. He motions to a chair, and we both sit. A heavy silence drapes the room. Up close, I see he has a mixture of my mannerisms. He's fidgeting with a pen the way I sometimes do. Or maybe I'm grasping for straws. My mind reels. He clears his throat, looking unsure. I found out you were in town. I wanted to see you. Mom never told us exactly why you left, but I pieced some things together. He ducks his head. I know about Brandon. My heart aches at the sadness in his voice. I see. He swallows. Things have been hard. Mom's messed up, financially and otherwise. Theo and Ella left for college, but I stayed in Millbrook for community classes. I guess I just wanted to understand. Why did you vanish without saying goodbye? My throat tightens. Logan, the words stick. I recall the trust funds, the letters, the heartbreak. There was a lot of betrayal. I thought it was best for me to go, or I'd collapse. I left instructions for your support because you deserved better than the mess we created. He blinks back tears. I get it, kinda. But you never came back, never checked in. We were kids. Pain surges through me. I know, and I'm sorry. I couldn't face it. Not after everything your mother and Brandon did. And the truth about your paternity. The word feels like a punch in the gut. Logan's face twists. I'm not ignorant, Dad. Technically, Brandon's my biological father, but you... His voice chokes. You raised me. For years. I don't know how to reconcile that. My eyes burn. Neither do I. We sit in that raw silence, emotions swirling. Eventually, I whisper, I never stopped caring about you three, Logan, but I was in too much pain to handle it. He rubs his eyes, nodding slowly. I'm not here to guilt trip you. I needed to see if you still think of me as your son at all. The question slices my heart. Of course I do. DNA doesn't erase the memories or the love I had for you kids. Tears slip down his cheeks. I fight not to cry myself. Then can we at least talk sometimes? I don't expect us to magically fix everything, but I can't stand living in the same town, pretending you don't exist. I swallow a sob. Yes, we can talk. I'm not sure how this all fits, but I want to try. He nods, exhaling a shaky breath. Thanks. He stands, awkward. I should go. Mom doesn't know I'm here. She's not in a good place. Logan, I say, standing too. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for how it all went down. You deserved better. He just nods, eyes red, then heads out. I watch him go, my heart pounding. So the children are aware of the betrayal, of Brandon's role. They're old enough to decide how they feel about it. And in this moment, Logan chose to seek me out. The thought staggers me. Later, alone in my suite, I wrestle with a tumult of feelings. The confrontation with Brandon felt manageable, my anger overshadowing any regret, but seeing Logan rips me apart. The paternal love I once buried floods back, mingled with guilt for leaving him behind. This was simpler when I kept my distance. Now I'm forced to acknowledge the consequences of my revenge. A knock on my door jolts me from my spiral. I half expect another child, but it's Emily again. She's concerned about my pale face, but I wave off her questions, claiming a headache. She reminds me of a scheduled site visit tomorrow. I feign a smile, saying I'll be ready. As night falls, I stare at the city lights again, replaying the conversation with Logan. My chest hurts, but it's not the old fury. It's a longing to reconnect with the kids, maybe in a way that doesn't ignore the betrayal but acknowledges that I was their dad in every sense that mattered at least once upon a time. Yet the next steps remain unclear. I recall the outline of tomorrow's itinerary, touring more buildings, meeting local officials, finalizing a potential proposal for the tech park. But overshadowing it all is the knowledge that my children might each seek me out, or I might encounter Alice. I brace myself for what might come. Somewhere in the swirl of thoughts, I sense a flicker of hope. Perhaps I can mend a fraction of what was lost with the kids, if not with Alice or Catherine. That glimmer of possibility mingles with the dread of more confrontations. I close my eyes, telling myself I can handle it. I've faced bigger demons. But even as I drift to sleep, Logan's tearful face haunts me. The children's choice is coming, and I have no idea how it ends. I'm standing at a makeshift podium, staring out at a modest crowd of local officials, business leaders, and media folks. The front banner reads, Millbrook Tech Park Revitalization. Behind me, a half-renovated building stands as a testament to change. My heart thuds as I shuffle my note cards. After 2 weeks of intense negotiations, Coleman Innovations, my global company, has decided to invest in Millbrook's tech park, turning it into a next-generation hub. The press conference is part of the unveiling of this partnership. Cameras click, reporters murmur. I glance at Emily Pierce standing at the side, giving me an encouraging nod. I clear my throat, speaking into the microphone. Thank you all for coming. I'm Adam Coleman, and I'm pleased to announce that we will be committing significant resources to transform this tech park into a driver of innovation and local prosperity. Millbrook has potential more than people realize, and I believe it can become a model for modern tech ecosystems. Applause ripples through the crowd. My gaze lands on a few familiar faces in the back. Theo and Ella, my older children, stand side by side. My pulse spikes. They look serious, arms folded. My chest twists with longing and regret. They came, just as Logan said they might. I wrap up my speech with a note of hope for the future, then step down as the mayor offers some closing words. The moment it's over, local officials swarm me, shaking my hand, praising the huge announcement. A part of me wants to slip away, but I keep up appearances for a few minutes. At last, I manage to break free, scanning for the kids. They're lingering near a corner, looking unsure. Approaching them, my throat tightens. Ella is in her early 20s now, hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, eyes reflecting a mixture of caution and curiosity. Theo, a bit older, stands protectively by her, taller than me now. Hey, I say quietly, heart pounding. Ella lifts her chin. Mom told us you were back. Logan said he talked to you. Theo nods, face guarded. We wanted to see for ourselves if you really care about this town or if it's just business. I swallow. It's both. I have reasons to fix what's broken here. They exchange a glance. Ella speaks, voice trembling slightly. We found out everything, Dad. About Brandon, about the paternity tests. We know why you left. It was still hard. I exhale, guilt flooding me. I never wanted to hurt you three. I was broken, but that doesn't excuse abandoning you. My voice wavers. If I could do it over differently, Theo holds up a hand. We don't need an apology. We just want to know if you still see us as your kids or if you've moved on. Because everything's changed, but we still grew up calling you Dad. A surge of emotion swells in my chest. Of course I still see you as my kids. Nothing can erase the years we spent together. I pause, voice thick. But I also respect that you might feel differently now that you know Brandon is your biological father. Ella's eyes fill with tears. He's never been a father to us, not really. And Mom, well, she's complicated. We just want to decide for ourselves who we see as family. Theo nods, placing a hand on Ella's shoulder. We're not sure how to move forward, but we'd like to keep in touch. Maybe get dinner sometime? My eyes sting. I sense the hope in their voices, timid but real. I'd like that, I whisper. We can go slow. You can ask me anything, and I'll try to be honest. No more secrets. They exchange relieved smiles, and for a moment I see glimpses of the small children they once were. My heart aches with love for them. Where's Logan? I ask gently. He's at work, Ella says, but I'm sure he'll join us next time. I nod, relief coursing through me. I'd like that. We stand there a moment longer, the tension lifting a bit. Then Ella glances at her phone. We should go, Mom is waiting for us at home. She's not well, but we wanted to see you, even if it's just for a minute. My chest tightens at the mention of Alice. I don't know if I'm ready to face her again, but I can't pretend she doesn't exist. I understand. Theo manages a small grin. Thanks for not ignoring us. We'll call you, okay? I nod, swallowing back tears as they walk away, leaving me with a mix of hope and sorrow. This is a start fragile, uncertain, but a start. The children have made their choice, at least partially. They want a relationship with me, not with Brandon. That knowledge soothes some of my old wounds. After the press event, I retreat to the half-renovated building where Coleman Innovations is setting up a project office. The workers are tearing down old drywall, prepping for modern wiring and design. I walk through the echoing halls, envisioning bustling startups, labs, creative spaces. This structure represents not just my business vision, but a metaphorical rebuilding of everything I lost. A phone call breaks my reverie. I fish out my phone, seeing a number I now recognize. Catherine. I almost send it to voicemail, but something compels me to answer. Adam, she says, voice trembling. I heard about your press conference. Congratulations. My words come out flat. Thank you. Is that all? She sighs shakily. I just wanted to tell you I'm proud of what you've become, even if I had no right to be involved. A swirl of emotions churns in me, anger, pity, regret. I built this life in spite of you, I snap before I can stop myself. She deserves to hear it. But as silence stretches, I recall my children's words about forging their own decisions. Maybe I can find a shred of mercy for her. You should know, she says quietly. I'm living in a small condo near the east side of town. If you ever wanted to talk or if you need anything, I'm here. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I've spent these years realizing how badly I messed up. I sigh, running a hand through my hair. Catherine, you destroyed my marriage, my sense of self. The scars remain. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Her breath catches, but she doesn't protest. I understand. I close my eyes, picturing the frail older woman she must be now, stripped of her old wealth and social standing. The once imperious matriarch brought low by her own schemes. Part of me relishes her downfall, but another part is tired of hate. Take care of yourself, I say, voice low, then end the call. Leaning against the wall, I exhale a shaky breath. That might be the last conversation I ever have with my mother, or maybe not. Either way, I feel an odd calm settle in me. I've confronted Brandon, reconnected with the kids, and spoken with Catherine. Alice remains the final piece, though I'm not even sure I want that encounter. 2 days later, I'm finalizing details for the revitalization project. The local media hails me as a hometown hero returning to save the day, which I find ironic. My phone rings again, another unknown local number. I brace myself, half expecting Alice. Sure enough, her hesitant voice greets me. Adam, it's me. The sound of her voice brings a flood of memories, both cherished and cursed. She continues softly. Ella told me you're open to talking. Can we meet? I hesitate. Part of me wants to say no, to let her wallow in regret. But I recall how Logan and Ella looked at me, how they balanced love for their mother with anger at her mistakes. Maybe meeting her is the final step in my closure. Where? She suggests a small diner on the outskirts of town. I agree to meet in an hour, my nerves prickling. The only reason I go is to end this entire saga on my own terms. An hour later, I walk into that modest diner. The bell above the door jingles. Alice sits in a corner booth, stirring a cup of tea. She looks older, thinner, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. My heart twists at the reminder of the woman I once adored. I slide into the booth. We stare at each other, words failing. Finally, she speaks, voice trembling. Adam, thank you for coming. She breaks off, tears welling. My life's a mess. I don't expect you to feel sorry for me, but I needed to say it. I keep my face neutral. What do you want from me, Alice? She fiddles with her spoon. I guess I wanted to see if you could ever forgive me. Brandon and I aren't together. He turned out to be... She stops, tears dripping onto the table. I know it's too late, but I have to try. A wave of conflicting emotions slams into me. Pity, anger, sadness. Alice, you and my mother deceived me for years. You had every chance to come clean, but you didn't. I lost my sense of home, fatherhood, everything. She nods, sobbing quietly. I know, I was selfish, scared. I clung to illusions. And then you found out, and it all collapsed. I stare at the chipped Formica tabletop. Yes, it did. My voice softens. The kids are grown now, forging their own paths. They don't need us to fight. They just need to know we love them. She sniffles, wiping her eyes. I do love them. I wish I'd been honest. I robbed them of a stable home. Silence stretches. A waitress refills my coffee but quickly retreats. Finally, I speak. Alice, I can't forget what happened. I can't promise a normal friendship, but for the kids' sake, maybe we can coexist. She exhales a shuddery breath. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. Her eyes flicker with pain. Are you happy now? With your new life? I consider. I'm at peace, mostly. I found success, but it wasn't about happiness, at least not at first. It was about proving I could survive. I meet her gaze. Maybe I've moved beyond revenge. I want to rebuild this town, help the kids if they let me. That's all. She nods, tears still glistening. I hope you find real happiness, Adam. I finish my coffee, leaving money on the table. Take care of yourself, I say gently, standing to go. She starts to say more, but I walk away, heart pounding. Outside, the crisp air hits my cheeks. I inhale deeply, a sense of weight lifting. The final conversation was bittersweet, but it's done. No illusions remain. A week passes, and I stand on a platform at the newly christened Coleman Innovations Campus, once known as the Millbrook Tech Park. The official transformation is underway. Fresh signage, improved facilities, a cluster of local startups ready to occupy the space. Reporters snap photos as I cut a ceremonial ribbon. In the small audience, I see Theo, Ella, and Logan watching quietly. My heart surges with a cautious joy. We haven't fully repaired the wounds, but we're talking, forging a relationship on new terms. That might be enough for now. After the ceremony, I step off the platform and the kids approach. They each give me a hesitant hug, one by one. My eyes burn with tears I fight to keep at bay. Thanks for coming, I manage. Logan smiles. We're proud of you, Dad. Ella nods, eyes wet. Yeah, we are. Theo adds softly, maybe we can do dinner tonight, all of us. Just talk. My voice cracks. I'd like that. In the distance, the newly unveiled sign glints in the sun. Coleman Innovations Campus, a testament to my ability to build something better from rubble. And in that moment, I realized the real victory isn't that I destroyed my betrayers. It's that I created a new life, and maybe, just maybe, a second chance at being a father to these kids who still call me Dad. Walking away from the crowd, I take a final glance at the campus behind me, the kids at my side. I've come full circle, from a broken man fleeing his hometown to a stronger person returning by choice. The betrayal once defined me, but now it's just part of my story. I found a measure of peace, and that might be the greatest win of all.